please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first on the agenda is to approve the minutes of September 23rd, 2024 as written.
I'll move.
Second. Moved by Thompson, second by McCurry. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Oh, we got one abstain. Next is approve the minutes, the continuation meeting for September 26th for checks and vouchers as written. I'll move. Second. Moved by McCurry, seconded by Knight. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. He was here, yes. Motion passes. Oh, next is miscellaneous, let's see, tax abatement. Moved to authorize Director Chairman to sign one tax abatement in the amount of $17.56.
So move. I'll second that.
Moved by Huguenin, seconded by Thompson. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Next is these are all miscellaneous motions, Andy. The vehicle disbursement.
Vehicle disbursement?
Yeah, the vehicle disposal.
Yes.
Move to find one 2008 Ford Expedition VIN ending in 9767 is no longer required and cannot prudently be used for public purpose of Coffee County, and as such should be disposed of to the Chamber of Commerce, Burlington, Kansas.
I'll move.
I'll second. Moved by Huguenin, seconded by Meats. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Next, move to find various additional items of property contained on the list dated September 30th are no longer required and cannot prudently be used for public purpose of Coffee County, and as such, the same will be disposed of by public auction. Said auction will occur on October 19th, 2024 at 9 a.m. at the Coffee County Shop at 510 South 6, Burlington, Kansas. The county clerk is authorized to publish the notice of intent to dispose of property in the official county newspaper.
These are additional items,
Yes.
are they? Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
That have been added?
Yes.
Okay.
Also move. Second. Moved by Meeks, seconded by McCurry. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Moved to authorize Director Chairman to sign Coffee County payroll notice for Levi McSoy. Okay. Jail correction number 1, new hire, wage classification 30-3, wage of $19.87, effective 9/30/2024.
I'll move.
Second. Moved by Thompson, seconded by Huguenin. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Okay, we'll do our normal Monday morning River City construction jail update. Are you sure?
Good, how are you all? Can't get you to warm up on us again, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Losing that nice cool weather.
Yep, thank you.
Stops life in the 70s and 80s.
Can't complain
They're
about it.
still coming. They're still coming.
As you all can see, moving along, they got this east panel of brick south of the opening where the cells will be coming in, completed last week. They're moving their scaffold out and they're going to take it around the south, run as much of that up as they can. With their scaffold, the concrete guys are going to pour the slab that the cells will be set on and rolled into the building this week. They're going to do some little extra concrete outside on the north side of the corridor, connector corridor, around that area that drain. They're gonna do the generator and, transformer pads. They're gonna pour some interior concrete at the central control, the ramp into or out of the sally port, do some concrete, miscellaneous concrete pads inside, framers working upstairs, got the majority of the walls laid out. Last week he's finishing up this morning. They've been shooting in their top track to start framing walls as soon as the roof is ready, loaded and ready. Got the roof material for that high roof here last week. They're going to fly it up on Friday when the masons are out and start that roof next week. The high roof, they got the low roof pretty well buttoned up. There's a few miscellaneous items on this east roof that they got, but for the most part we're dried in on that side. Got the sally port roof and then the connector corridor little roof left. Other than that, we're almost dried in. We can see it in the future for sure. Got the roof drains hooked up, so that's a big push keeping her dry. Framers finished up on the outside of the building. The block layers, interior block, are finishing up central control. It'll be probably the end of the day today or first thing in the morning, finishing up central control wall, or the biggest part of central control. They'll work on finishing up that pod E to F divider wall and start on the divider wall between D and E, and that'll be the last pod wall until the cells are in. Ongoing rough-in electrical and plumbing, mechanical, the ductwork. Got about half the ductwork up on the jail. The south side where the cells will be, the sprinkler fitters were here today to start looking at it, getting their pipe in. They're going to bring some pipe this week and probably start next week, getting some high stuff out of the way. Other than that, we're tracking pretty well. Closed you all off. It's hard to watch the progress now, but
Yes, you're inside.
it's nice to be inside.
The insulation, or I assume it's insulation that came in last week, semi-plus of it, where's that all go to?
That'll go on the roof.
That's all for the roof?
For that, yeah, half the roof.
And there's a pile of insulation.
I think there was 3 semi-loads of it
I've
showed up.
seen one come in.
Yeah, there's
All
quite a
sitting
bit.
there on the west side of the building now.
With all the openings, there's a lot of roof curbs there's a lot of mini splits, and, well, there's no skylights on that side, but it's a tapered system. It takes a lot of material. And there's a lot of roof drains to taper to and from, and
How thick is that insulation? This one is white.
I think it's 2 to 4 inches. It varies.
It does vary for
Mhm.
if your drainage.
Yep. And it goes from, I think, 4 or 6 inches up to 8 to 12 inches in some areas. There's a lot of waste. Not a lot of waste, but when you're cutting it down for the tapered system, you got a lot of off-fall.
So that's projected to be done, what, the last November?
There'll be about 3 weeks up there after next week. So hopefully by the end of October, they got that one about buttoned up. And we'll have just a couple of miscellaneous, the Sally Port, the connector corridor, but other than that,
The
we'll
main
be
part of it,
right.
great.
I'm ready for the dried in. 'Cause I know everybody's praying for rain, so as long as we can get dried in, I'll pray with you.
We're not as bad as we were.
No, for sure.
Rain won't do as much good now except fall.
Just the block or brick. It'll slow the brick down, but those guys if it rains, they're jumping in and hitting little miscellaneous stuff inside and popping back out when it's dry.
Good.
Keep them laying brick.
They're
What's this tentative start date off of the guy?
I was looking at that before the meeting. I think that was left on there. That one should not be on there.
Say, go further out, what we originally discussed.
Right. No, well, that is up on there's some, up above the bump outs where the EFS is, there's about a 4-foot section of brick, and they'll have to get it, well, they won't be quite the 1028 unless they're working other areas. It'll be kind of fill-in work for them, but that'll be the last thing before the roof, and I think it's about a 2.5 foot wide section just above the bump outs. But they gotta lay it to lay all the way across. Make it look the same.
Looks good. Any questions?
Well, you and I and the sheriff go over payouts and change orders. So maybe to help clear up misinformation that's out there, I'm hearing it multiple times now. The jail is over budget, it's up to $40 million. Is that true or false? We have not changed our GMP of, I don't remember what it was originally. I mean, the 30 million threshold has not changed. And the jail itself is at 25, whatever. Correct. Our current GMP is 25, awaiting the phase 2 of the lead courthouse. So, if 40 million or anything, actually a penny over 30 million is mentioned outside these walls, that's not true. Correct. That we have not changed up the $30 million number. Okay.
Not changed or will not change?
Will not change.
Will not change.
As long as I'm sitting here, it won't change.
Is what Jesse?
As long as I'm sitting here, it's not gonna change.
Right.
But you made that statement a long
A long time ago, not one penny.
Not one penny.
That's what I remember.
No, we thoroughly go through each of them and I mean, there's been items you catch, there's items that we catch before it even gets to you. We push on subs that are each month, pay apps, change orders, we're beating them up a little more than they expect. They didn't quite expect it, or not used to it, I guess, but that's what we're here for.
Very
And you're
good.
doing a good job.
We're fighting just as much as you all. We're a representative for you all.
We appreciate that.
We spend an hour, sometimes a couple hours, going over each of the pay apps before it even makes it to you, and
Yes.
question everything vetted. And those are the notes that you see, and Cole does a good job. He knows what questions I'm gonna ask, what questions the sheriff's gonna ask, and if something needs further explanation, he calls and he gets an answer. We should be, this pay app coming up, I should be together into GGA this week, I know, for our owner meeting. We're just, I think, right around the $2 million mark, going up, a lot of stuff going on, and we're getting a lot of stored materials. The Poly Jail's the big one. They got their cell doors, and I don't know if you remember what else. He's got a lot of pictures this month. Insulation for cells, and quite a bit. But nonetheless, moving forward, that's what we love to see.
Looks good.
Got to clear up the bad rumors, the misinformed individuals.
Nope, we have not changed. Nor do we, not gonna happen.
Intend on.
Right.
Nope.
Thank
We
you.
hate to see change orders just as much as everybody else. It just causes more headache.
Right.
It does,
Right.
it does for a fact.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cole.
Road and Bridge, Ryan, you're up.
Good morning.
Morning.
Not a whole lot today. No call-outs this weekend. Got one overnight stay there. This will be for Wayne Hard and myself.
Yeah, we were saying.
Okay. Landfill conference coming up. Did have one retirement effective today. And with that, I have one position open, so I'd like to get a motion for advertisement to hire for a heavy equipment operator due to the retirement.
Based on recommendations, Road and Bridge Superintendent to advertise and hire one heavy equipment operator. This request will fill a current vacant position within the department due to retirement.
Also move.
Second. Moved by Meach, seconded by McCurry. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes.
All right, thank you. Next, I got a motion for a couple of precast box culverts. These would be 10 by 5 boxes out on Oxon Road. similar, these are the same type boxes we use out there on the Thigh Slate project, but got 2 locations out there. And so total on these two is $116,030, these 2 culverts.
Based upon the recommendation of the Road and Bridge Superintendent to waive the purchasing policy as for good cause, to approve the purchase of 2 precast concrete boxes at 9th Lane and Oxon Road and 10th Road and Oxon Road from Rinker Materials, Shawnee, Kansas, in the amount of $116,030, 0 pennies. Funds to be paid from Special Bridge Fund. I'll move.
Second.
Moved by Knight, seconded by Hugan. Any discussion?
Other than they just got a good price on them, I think.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
All right, thank you. The last motion I have, the state contacted us, and this is just, on road classifications, just making sure that, if there are any changes, every so often they go through. And so basically I just need a motion just stating that there's not any changes to our classifications or the functionality on our roads.
Based on the recommendation of the Road and Bridge Superintendent, move to accept with no changes to functionality classification system.
I'll move.
Second. Moved by Thompson, seconded by McCurry. Any discussion?
Can we add in there, move to approve resolution number 2024-941, and then the resolution, can I rewrite that real quick?
Yeah, sure. Amend the last motion.
And that's the only form to add. It said if there wasn't changes, there didn't need to be a resolution, but I didn't.
Oh, there doesn't need to be a resolution?
That's what they said.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I just made a motion out of it. I wasn't
Okay.
for sure, but that was the only form that I could find that they
Okay.
had.
Scratch the
I
resolution.
think it's just only a resolution
Oh,
if there's
yeah.
changes.
Is this done yearly,
Go ahead.
Uh,
Just leave it then.
I don't think it's yearly, but it's
I was just.
every few years they do it.
I just think we're okay.
Yeah, just leave it, and I'll wipe that out later.
Okay, any other discussion? We're gonna hold with the motion as read. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Who moved and seconded? I missed that.
I moved,
That's it. Moved, yeah.
I think.
I think it was right, Steve, yeah.
All right, thank you. That is all I have for today. You guys have anything for me?
Oh, thanks for getting some rock out there on 20th Road.
Oh yeah, they're spotting in. We're
Yeah.
spotting in
Right.
right now, but yeah, that was school bus route. I know there's few soft spots through there.
Yeah, there was.
But yeah, we're hauling rock hard and heavy right now.
And thanks for getting that tree there on Oxon Road, that's quite a tree, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, that was a big oak tree.
Yeah.
Big oak tree.
50 highway, there's some big concrete culverts. Up there east of John Davies's, where are those gonna be?
There's a couple culvert extensions they have. There's one there around Steve Surgeon's place. And then there's another one down, I think there's 2 concrete culverts that will extend out,
Oh, okay.
basically round culverts.
Mhm.
That's just to help,
Okay.
so we don't have to put guardrail there at the end. They could easily be extended out.
Okay.
And some of those other narrower rock culverts, they'll wind up with some guardrail
Oh, okay.
at the end of the project. But
Oh, okay.
we try to eliminate as much of that guardrail as we could.
We're moving right along up there.
Yeah. I think they're hoping to get a good weekend this week to have the shoulder asphalt done.
Mhm.
So,
You need this right, a back line.
yes, thank
Be awesome.
you.
Takes time.
So, yep.
Oh,
All right, appreciate
Thank
it,
you.
guys.
Have a
good
Ryan,
week.
have a good day.
Appreciate it.
Emergency management, Amber, you're up. You're up. Up and at 'em.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing now?
Super, huh?
Pretty darn good, you know what?
Especially on Monday.
I know.
You got a sticker underneath your arm on this side.
I do. Uh-oh. I got a tag on me is what
You
I
got a
got.
tag?
Yeah.
There you go.
Thanks for pointing that out on camera.
Well, at least you're not wearing a hat and a tag on it, like any pearl.
I thought that was fashionable, so. I just got this last week. Apparently I didn't check it for tags. Thanks, Jesse.
You're welcome.
Let's see. Okay, we'll start off. I did send a resolution to be approved. I think you have it in your packet. Julie fulfilled all the requirements for updating our regional hazard mitigation plan. This plan allows us to be eligible for federal grant opportunities, and it also lowers the flood insurance premiums by increasing community ratings used for the National Flood Insurance Program. Without an approved hazard mitigation plan, FEMA could deny us disaster funds or grants. So it's very important that we have this plan updated. We went regional, the state went regional, so there's a regional plan for like 6 or 7 counties. We all approved it, we all have input in it, our jurisdictions, our cities, our schools, and our rural water districts fill out paperwork and everything for this. And the state kind of puts everything together and updates the plan, and so this is the resolution adopting that plan. Should have a motion for that.
Upon the recommendation of the Emergency Management Director, move to authorize Director Chairman to sign resolution number 2024-940, a resolution adopting the Kansas Homeland Security Region J Hazard Mitigation Plan.
No.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So moved. I'll second. Moved by Meeks, second by Knight. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Okay, here, oh, actually, sign this one because I think that one says October 30th.
It does.
This one says September.
Do you have the resolution number on?
No. Can you see?
Oh, yeah,
The front page.
Yeah.
For that one. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Rachel.
Cut and paste.
Yeah. Let's see. And that has needs everybody's signature. We'll get that turned into the state. I attached FEMA's approval letter for that plan. Just in case
Yeah, we got that on there too.
And the plan is on the county website, under emergency management, under current plan, if anybody wants to read it. It's 100+ pages. So. Tim and I attended the annual Kansas Emergency Management Conference in Manhattan. It was a great opportunity to network with other EMs around the state and to hear lessons learned from events in their counties, as well as 2 solid days of training. Tower update. Scott and Martin are continuing to work with Wade and the cities and our private landowner on the lease agreement. We have received some small boxes of equipment for the towers, which we are storing at our newly cleaned and organized landfill building. Martin has attained quite a bit of radio knowledge, and he's actually traveled to other places like Anderson County and Lawrence PD to help them with radio programming and radio issues that they were having. And by helping out our partners, usually they kind of give us something in return, or they help us with something, so it's kind of a mutual partnership. So really glad that he's able to help those guys. We trained at Newman Hospital and Lyon County EMS last week on receiving contaminated patients. This week we are at Coffee County EMS. And then we train the Coffee County Hospital staff, and they have a FEMA evaluated exercise after their training. We will have Woodson County Reception Center training the evening of October 16th. They will practice receiving evacuees from the county. Tim's been busy finishing up all the Wolf Creek response training for the fire departments schools, and the bus barns. The siren in Leroy is still down. We are still waiting on parts. It should be any day now. We did reach out to EMP Shield on whether the warranty would cover this siren that got struck by lightning, and they were looking into it. They requested some info from us, and we've sent it in, so we're just kind of waiting to hear back from them to see what they say. In the work coming up, we've got SimCell. I'm going to be a SimCell for a Wolf Creek drill in October. The county is not playing, but I will play the entire county. Wolf Creek's having a media day coming up that I will attend. We have the Radiological Assistance Committee meeting in Independence, Missouri. We're going to do Highway Department training before the end of the year, Wolf Creek 101 for new employees, and Wolf Creek EOC role training, and we're hoping to start scheduling NIMS, National Incident Management System training. And when we do that, we'll need anybody who would be involved in any kind of response to take this training. I believe that some of it is online, and then some of it can be classroom in person, and we will try to get the classroom training here in our county. It's a requirement that we have everybody trained in NIMS. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Been busy.
Sounds like, just what I was gonna say, sounds like you got a busy schedule next 3
Always.
months, so.
Always. Yep, end of the year is usually where we shine.
How many hours on the NIMS?
How many hours on what?
How many hours on the NIMS?
Oh, it depends on what level you are. I believe that there is a class that's a couple hours for elected officials. And we were going to try to bring that here so that we could get you guys, we could also get the mayors of the city, maybe have it a couple of evenings or something. That's only, I think, a couple hours, but once you get into where firefighters and road and bridge and everybody,
Yeah, that could be pretty extensive.
yeah, it could take a little bit. Seems like when we did this last time, though, they were able to do a lot of it online, and so we brought them down to the EOC. Everybody took the training, took the test, and it didn't take too long. It was like half a day.
I was
maybe.
just curious.
Yeah. And they've changed stuff so much since when I first took NIMS training. I don't even know. It may be an hour. Maybe you're done. Who knows? I doubt it, but quite a bit.
Where are the tires going to be placed at?
There will
Have
be,
you got locations
yes,
that you can?
yes, but we have not signed the agreements yet, so I didn't want to give out that
Okay.
info. But we will have one in Leroy, one in Gridley, and one in Macon.
I think there's a tire going up. I'm not 100% sure, but I think there's a tire going up at Homestead 50. But I'm not 100% sure. It looks like they've got anchors there. There's a pipeline that runs through there as well. So there's a big pad, and it looks like to me some anchors, but I'm not 100%. I haven't got out and
Check on
investigated.
it. I did ask, and I guess I need to talk to Heidi again, I had asked that any towers that go up, that we be notified, because if we want, before we approve their zoning for that, we could put some stipulations on that we can have equipment or repeaters or cameras or anything on those towers. But we have to get in there before they get the zoning approved. So I'd asked a couple times if they could let me know when towers are going up.
And I might be all wrong. It might not be a tire set. I don't know. It's just
No, I'll check it
something's
out.
going on
Yeah,
there.
I'll
I do
check it
know
out.
that.
But I would like to try to get a process down where if towers go up, we get notified, because it's kind of important for us to know that ahead of time.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, we're putting these towers up because we really didn't want to get on anybody else's tower. We wanted to have our own infrastructure. But should things come down the pike, or if we have other things going on, I mean, we would want that ability to
Yeah.
have space on some towers. So, yep, thanks for letting me know. That's great.
Might be worth something checking out.
Yeah.
Like I said,
Yep.
I'm not
No, that's what I
100%
need.
sure.
I like when people tell me stuff that they think is happening, and then I just go check it out. Okay, anything else for now?
Thanks for the update.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Cindy.
Hey, you. It's my neighbor, be nice to him.
No, he's gotta be nice to us.
Hey,
Wanda, you're up. Morning.
Morning,
Good morning.
How you doing?
Good. I've been up early. There's about 650 pounds of crust sitting on the tables right now.
Wow.
That's why I'm
Sounds
dressed.
delicious.
It sounds delicious, yeah. So I'm back to talk about this tax abatement. Some people, I was here before, and then I was kind of referred back to the city about the tax abatement, so I went back to New Strong. Mr. Skipper got involved with Rhonda Taylor and myself before we went to the city council meeting, and he had suggested that I get an industrial revenue bond. And the fancy Kansas City attorneys, my project isn't big enough for them to make enough money off of it. So then one of the others in the group suggested that I do a contract, get an attorney, do a contract between myself and the city, and I don't feel that's the right way to do it. So I went back, and on the economic development website for Coffee County, it does state that to get businesses here or to help businesses expand for reduced taxes and or tax abatement on the county website. So that is what I'm here. It's on the website. So when I was here the last time, I don't remember who asked about what the taxes was going to be on this new edition. I believe this is a complete exaggeration of numbers because they did it off the bid, which has clerical, it's got my equipment involved in it, it's got landscaping, things that aren't the building itself.
Soft costs inside.
Yeah, it's so.
It's got all the equipment and everything.
Yes,
Yeah.
they just did it off the initial bid. So here it is. That the county did up for me. Like I said, I don't think the number is remotely correct.
Wonder what percentage of the equipment, what percent,
Well,
what percentage,
all we'd have to do is know what the building.
what the bid is.
Yeah.
What are the dimensions of your addition,
Oh,
roughly, do you recall?
I cannot. Let me see. That's not in this part of the, I think I brought that the last time.
I think you did, and
I think it's around 1,700 square feet.
that,
1,750,
And that's just of your addition.
that's just the addition,
That's not counting.
and that's what you're talking about for an abatement,
Yes.
obviously, is the addition.
is the addition.
Right.
I
And
just want to refresh everybody.
Yes.
else.
Right.
so what I'm asking for is a 10-year abatement on the new building, and I am also asking for a cap on my existing building, meaning that I don't want somebody comes along new and goes, oh, well, now we've got this new building attached to the old building. Now that old building's worth buku more, so I'm asking for a cap on my existing building as well.
So that it's not increased after the new
Yes.
building is put up?
Yes.
Is that what you're getting
Yes,
at?
that's what I'm getting
I
at.
don't know if we can do that, can we?
They're not, anything is possible. I think
I-
anything is possible because, I don't want to be mean, but we're all here together, but 5 years from now, it could be a whole different group of people here and nobody may not know. And then the person that goes around and does the appraisals may not know, and then,
Well, I'm not the appraiser, but I mean, I don't know how we can tell you that your taxes wouldn't go up on your existing building, can we?
If the state raises the valuations, that would increase it.
Yeah.
So I
Maybe
mean,
there's a way, but I just,
I don't know whether Connie could answer that question or not.
yeah, I'm
well,
not
that
sure.
was one of the things that Bobby Skipper had suggested when we were discussing the abatement, but then the industrial revenue bond came, and then that all kind of went to the side,
yeah.
was that there needs to be a cap put on the existing building so that it doesn't reverse and now the old building's worth a huge amount of money, and it's really not, because it's now connected to the new building.
But it's going to be, one that's going to be increased in value somewhat, is
Mhm.
it not?
The old building or the new building?
The old bit, are they they're attached?
It will be attached, yes. There'll be like a breezeway that connects the two buildings together,
Okay.
the old building and the new building, so it would tie everything together.
I mean, we could check into that. I just,
Mm-hmm.
you know, don't want to say something we don't have the authority to do.
Right.
That's all.
That's just what was suggested, was that I asked for a cap to be put on
I don't doubt that, I mean, I don't doubt,
that, just to
Yeah.
protect that end of it.
You got it, babe, good
So, anyways, that's why I'm back, is requesting that tax abatement.
Equipment, it's not taxed, right?
No. Property tax, no.
And then 604 includes that?
Yes. That's a complete bid. The company, BHS Construction, is who I'll be having build, and they'll be contracting everything from the electrical to the plumbing to the HVAC, the refrigeration, coolers, freezers that are going to be going in it.
and I think that's what you said the last time. I mean, this number is somewhat similar to the last time, if I remember.
Yeah, that was the bid that they gave
And
me.
that included all the equipment?
Yes.
and everything.
That includes everything, 'cause
Yeah.
that's they're
Yeah.
doing the whole project.
So I guess to further help you, I'm thinking we just need the bid for the building. We can go from there. If it says on our website that that's what we're gonna do, we'll figure out something.
Yeah,
I got no problem putting a cap on the existing at all.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem doing the tax
I
abatement.
don't either, just don't know if we can.
Tom, I don't have a problem doing the tax abatement per se, just as long as we know what the cost of the building would be, and that's what you're asking for.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, does that sound?
Yeah,
The
Yeah,
building should be about half of that, what I'm seeing. Just-
probably, yeah.
Okay,
Should come in around, I'd have to look at it. I
Because the
didn't,
equipment,
that's just a guess.
because the equipment, the last time,
the equipment is around, I believe it was 100,000 for the freezer and the cooler.
that's,
And then you've got the electrical, and all of that is still included, which isn't really the building to say.
right.
I mean, it is, but there's a lot of labor in there, and there's
Right.
a ton of administrative.
If you've got a 1,700 square foot building going up, I'm gonna think you're probably gonna be somewhere around the $250 square foot.
I was guessing 200.
200, at 200, you're at $340,000. And if I run their numbers just off rough numbers, you're looking at about 10.8 a year in taxes.
Yeah.
And they're estimating at 19.3. But I'm just throwing,
Yeah.
they're including the equipment on this
Yeah.
side, I'm just trying to figure square footage type thing.
Right.
And I'm great with doing the abatement, and I'm fine with doing the other if we can. I just,
I don't know about the cap. I'm okay with the abatement for this rough numbers here at 10 to
Yeah,
19,000.
I'm good with that, I'm just not sure on the cap side.
On the
because
cap side.
Because somewhere along the line, it's going to be appraised at a certain
yeah, that will
value.
change. I just don't see how, don't know if we can do that. That's,
And I understand what Ron is doing, because that new building is obviously worth more than her existing building.
Yes.
it is attached by a breezeway, though, they're not
Not right.
being, all right, that's the way.
Well,
I understand.
that's what I call it, is a breezeway. I mean,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a functioning part of the building.
Yeah, the two rooms aren't being adjoined, though, or anything. Basically. It's not gonna become one building, you might say, you're being
No.
attached by a walkway,
Yeah, like
basically. Yeah,
Something
I
yay wide,
okay, I don't,
but I don't know what you really call it. I just call it a breezeway.
So how's business going? Crazy?
Good, yeah,
Good.
it's gonna get really crazy, and I don't have enough freezer space, so if you see me outside crying, it's because I don't have enough freezer space.
Wintertime's coming.
I know, right? It's gotta be, we have to maintain 0 to keep frozen fruit
frozen, so
okay.
0.
Zero.
Right.
0. So yeah, if you ever went in that little freezer, well, it's not little, but 18, the one that sits underneath the carport, that runs at 0 24/7.
Wow.
So
Well, Jesse, I don't know whether I'm missing something or not. 2023 mill levies, .128,158. Is that a correct level for mill levy?
I can't, I would,
Connie typed this up.
Yeah, Connie,
Yeah.
the 2023.
based on the 2023, I'm assuming,
I would assume that our mill levy is 65.479. So where's the 1.128 come from?
Further discussion with Connie
And I may have,
It says .128.
she said our mill levies for 24 not available at this time, so she's basing it on the 2023 mill levy.
but our mill levy stayed the same.
Yeah, I mean,
I think we probably got a couple, well, in my mind, maybe a couple things to visit with Connie, and she may have to make a call to Topeka to get clarification on the,
Sure.
Cap.
on the
Mhm.
cap.
I'm certain we can figure something out here.
perfect.
Again, you just
I don't have a
we just gotta have the right
We
information.
just gotta have the right
Okay.
information. I'm in agreement with giving her the tax abatement.
yeah, I mean,
she's an existing
I mean-
business and trying to grow and.
yeah, regardless what these figures are here that Connie's
Right.
give us, I mean, which, like she said, that includes equipment,
Sure.
but to me, it's kind of irrelevant, at least for me.
Yeah.
I'm willing to give her a tax
Yeah, I
abatement
am
on her
too.
addition.
But
That's
I'm not
my
sure who
thought.
asked for that.
Oh,
That's here the last
that
time.
doesn't matter, all I'm
But-
saying is, we're
Yeah.
discussing whether this is correct or not.
Oh,
I think one
To
of
me,
the
it
last.
doesn't matter, we're gonna do a tax abatement on it.
Yeah.
Or I would like to.
so
I'm
I
not
just,
sure the number's correct.
And I think the last time that number, that 600,000 came up, and at that time you said that there was equipment and everything included. And I think that, at that time, well, then you were advised to go back to
the city.
the city.
Mhm.
But at that time, if my memory is
Mhm.
correct, we didn't know what the cost of the building itself was going to be.
Yeah, and so that's the initial bid.
Sure.
They are actually supposed to be building to budget, which is a
So,
lot lower.
so are you on a time crunch to get your, does this abatement have to be done before you start construction? Am I remembering
That would-
correctly or not?
That, I don't know, that,
You're not basing this tax abatement on a rebate that would be counted towards actual income, or for your loan or anything?
No.
Okay.
no,
I think that's waiting for some help
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I guess what my thought is, if you're being held up because of this, then
oh,
can we agree to do the abatement and then worry about the cap?
I'm not
Just-
being held up.
Okay,
For
okay.
me going forward, I'm not being held
Okay,
up.
okay, that's my
No.
question, yeah.
I've got some other irons
As long as we
going
get answers for
to,
you in the next couple of weeks, it'd be
yeah.
plenty quick enough.
Mhm.
What the
Okay,
And we
abatement,
have,
what the abatement's going to do is help you plan forward the next
yes,
several years
Yes.
out.
mhm,
Is
Okay.
what it's going to do.
yes,
Right?
yeah.
We want to
Yeah.
encourage you,
Yeah, we do.
happy to have you here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we appreciate what you're doing for the county, and
Thank you.
if you can bear with us a couple of weeks, we'll try to have the answers.
No, that's fine, whatever, if there's more numbers, I don't know what all you need, so, and I'm not sure if this is in your pocket or in your corner now, or again,
It probably is.
so,
What you printed off the website, that would be, just so I
Well-
can make sure I'm looking at the same thing.
it was more just a screenshot
Sure.
that someone sent it to me,
Okay.
but it doesn't have, I guess the other side. So this, and then the other page. And the incentives are to get businesses to come here and,
Gotta do something to help the ones that are here, or try to do
Yes.
something to help the ones that are here.
I understand. One of the,
you want that? No? Yeah, yeah.
on your folks that are building the building, would you be able to reach out to them and just get a cost for the building itself? I mean.
So
I
it was all broken out on the bid that I gave to Connie.
Oh, okay, okay,
Everything, every line item was on there. Every
Okay.
single line item was on
Okay.
that bid.
Okay.
So,
You know, 1,700 square feet, $600,000 for a building,
That's pretty expensive.
that is awful. I don't mean to be critical, but
oh no, I am
that
paying,
is awful expensive.
I am paying for the courtesy of having a general contractor, because I've been trying to do this for 3 years now,
but,
and have had no movement from
But-
anywhere. So I'm paying that, part of that chunk, a huge chunk of that money, is to have somebody,
this
That's
is a
making-
this is a turnkey.
yes,
I mean, once you're done, you're set up for business,
Yes.
is that correct?
Yeah.
She's got like River City working for her.
Right,
Yes.
right,
yes.
right.
Because obviously me doing it myself has gotten me nowhere.
Because these folks are taking care of electrical, plumbing, your
No
equipment
one-
that's needed
yes.
and everything.
And they have my, just like he does, he's got your best interest, these guys have my best
Sure.
interest.
Right.
They're not gonna be the plumber who is gonna try to make the sewer go uphill and then back downhill, or whatever it is they're gonna try to do to pull one over on me. And I, like I said, struggling with it for 3 years, I know that's what will happen.
Right, well, let us get back with, let us get some
Sure.
stuff figured out here. We'll call you back, try to get something answered for you.
Yep, that's fine,
Okay.
yeah, whatever, and if you need any more
We're good.
papers or special papers, I can get that for you too. All
Thank
right,
you.
well, thank you guys, have a good day.
Yeah, you do.
All right.
Thank you.
Before you leave, let me
Okay.
just show you, I'm gonna put something on the screen, just so
Yeah.
everybody has the same thing. And I know. So,
We've got a 10 o'clock that we've got to be ready for.
right. This is important though. So, Kansas Department of Revenue website, this deals with property tax evasions. So, exemption of property for economic development purposes, and it has all these different things listed. Board of County Commissioners of any county or the governing body of any city may approve for economic development purposes a property tax exemption for up to 10 years per Article 11, Section 13 of the Kansas Constitution. That's where this comes from. And then it talks about qualifications, the procedure. A city or county must adopt uniform policies and procedures, including a cost-benefit analysis and a system for monitoring exemptions. Cost-benefit analysis must be performed on each application for exemption. I'm not going to go through and read all of that. Before Bobby had left, I had mentioned the county does not have uniform policies and procedures. Those need to be developed and adopted, and I think my understanding is before he left, that was in process. I don't know if the city of East Strong has uniform policies and procedures. There are a number of communities that don't. They've not utilized this exemption under the Kansas Constitution. I'm just telling you ahead of time so you know procedurally there are steps that have to be taken, because then that information ends up, there's a public hearing, and then it ends up being sent up to the Board of Tax Appeals for their decision. So it's a process, and the county needs to make sure that it has this policy and procedure in place. And this is just on the,
But that's something that, that's something we could.
yes, it's out there. It just needs to be developed, and you need to have it in front of you, and then you need to adopt that policy and procedure. So that when it does go up to the Board of Tax Appeals, there's a document that establishes what the rules are and the structure of those rules to get an exemption under the Constitution.
2 weeks might be too close too quick. to do that.
2 weeks might be
Well,
too soon.
that's why,
Yeah, if we gotta adopt a policy.
But that being said, as long as the consensus is still there to do the abatement.
Right,
And this isn't pressing Wanda to do her job.
right.
If she, if
So
she's
we have the
working,
intention.
yeah, we've got the intention.
I just wanted there to be a realistic timeline of what's needed and what's expected.
Right. No, I've looked at all of that. I didn't know that they, I knew they didn't have the, I guess.
So I had met with Connie the last time you were here asking questions about this, and I think you're the first that has asked for an exemption under this particular section of the Kansas Constitution. So I have examples of sort of that process from other surrounding counties and other communities. So it's not like it's going to be a heavy lift, but the county needs to catch up.
Wait, I don't mean to sell you short, we gotta get,
Yep.
we gotta get Sheriff Tom Johnson and
All right.
Amelia up here.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, Wanda.
Thank you.
Can you do this in 10 minutes? Okay,
9 minutes.
9 minutes. Sorry, come on up, Amelia.
Yeah, so, we're first on the agenda to discuss the Coffee County Mountain Wellness Board. We've been having some discussions, and the next step is to proceed to be able to continue to make progress with the board. It was recommended that Sheriff Tom Johnson and I come to you guys today to request to be appointed chairman and vice chairman of the Mental Wellness Board. And then in a week or two's time, we'll present the bylaws.
Okay.
Questions on any of that? I can go more in depth, or
Who's gonna be chairman and vice chairman?
I will be chairman, and then Sheriff Johnson will be vice.
Make it a grab here.
After today, I might be your first customer.
Don't mention it that way, Jesse.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Angie's got the motion typed up. Motion to appoint Health Department Administrator Amelia Merchant as chairman and Sheriff Tom Johnson as vice chairman of the Mental Wellness Board.
I'll second.
Moved by McCurry, seconded by Meeks. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'll be back in a week or two. So, thank you guys.
Thank you. Sorry we was a little late.
Oh, no worries.
Well, now we're a few minutes ahead. Anybody need a break?
Short one.
I do.
We'll take a break till 10 o'clock. 9:59, I guess. Whatever we can do. We're supposed to be on at 10, so.
Oh, it's a Zoom.
Yeah, it's a Zoom. They wanted just a phone call, 9:59, or 9:59.
Yeah, excuse me.
First I said 10 o'clock, then I said 9:59. That way we can be ready for our 10 o'clock call with the Department of Revenue. We're back, 10 o'clock Zoom call with Kansas Department of Revenue, Property Valuation Division. Mike Dolman,
As you see, we're waiting on that.
we're waiting on them. That's good. Looking in your office. She's looking in her office. He can stand. Oh, look, here. on the country, when it's something to do with.
I just can't imagine. How much?
That's me, so it's-
I'm gonna go call and make sure that he's gonna get on.
She's accepted it, so.
Guess we need to figure out it's state time, not our time.
Must have been Wolverine.
Should have lost.
Huh?
Should have lost.
Do I need to go in on my computer?
No.
It should show us on his side to accept.
I don't know if I'm the organizer, do I need to?
He should be the
Oh,
organizer.
Did you set it up?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you need to log in.
Oh. Great.
As the host, and then probably put yours on
Mute.
mute, and then accept this one and accept them. Since you set up the meeting.
I thought they set up the meeting, so I'm bad.
And so he's on. What does it say?
Wait for others to join.
Okay. Let me send it to him again.
Let's try it again, okay?
I'll send him the, because I've got it on, and if he can click on that, then maybe he'll go right in. So tell him to click, yeah, I just sent it.
Okay. Julie, click it again.
Or go, I sent him a new one as
Oh,
well.
she sent you a new one in an email, so try that one, Mike. Do what?
PCS waiting.
I see you.
It says, hey, Mike, hang tight, we'll let others know you're waiting.
Okay, there, he's on. He should be on.
Now you should be getting on.
Okay, I see an AK show up.
That's me.
That's Angie for clerk.
Okay, Wade, you're not showing.
Try not to.
Right
overweight.
Oh, get a run at it if you're gonna do it, okay?
Okay.
I run, it's not very quick.
Well, I won't be able to get out of the way, so you won't have
You
to.
see everybody?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, hang on. I don't know why my camera's not working. I don't, can you guys see me at all?
No?
my camera's not working. Can you hear me still?
Yes.
Okay, are you ready to go ahead and get started?
Yes.
One of my cameras.
Top right corner, there should be some icons, Mike. Can you see that says camera, Mike? Share?
Camera.
Something's happening. Okay, camera's off. You've got background set as your camera, I think.
I've never had this issue before. I'm not sure why this is not working. Well, this is frustrating. I don't know why this is not working.
Can you at least share your screen so you can go over the documents? That we don't need to see you, but maybe seeing those documents might help. You can try that.
Let me pull them. Well, I got my camera on, but it's not recognizing anything.
Little settings in your camera.
I have no idea.
They can hear that?
They can hear me, but they just can't see me. So let me see if I can share my screen with you, see if that works. See, copy. Oh, there we go. Hey. Well, now can you see me?
We can see you.
Yes, sir.
Probably better off not seeing me. So now let me see if I can share this screen. Make sure that
Now we've got your computer.
okay. So this first thing, that first handout I had sent out here was just basically the statute that is the reason why property valuation or somebody from property valuation has to contact the commissioners. It's in regards to our substantial compliance. If a county is considered out of substantial compliance the prior year, we're required to have a meeting with the commissioners to go over the ratio results and they call it audit in the statute, but it's basically procedural results. And then the last part of the presentation is going over the appeal information. And so that's all that this is. It's just, again, just the statute, so you know why we're doing it. Oh, hang on. What I'm going to spend most of my time on is the scorecard. Let me get this put back over here, which is this document. It's actually 2 pages. This Coffee County 2024 Compliance Review. So the scorecard, that's how we determine whether a county is in substantial compliance or not. Substantial compliance is made up of two, basically phases. There's the statistical portion of it, and then there's the procedural portion of it. And I guess, since I got flustered to get started, first of all, I should introduce myself. My name is Mike Dahlman. I'm the property manager here, property valuation. My main duties is overseeing the procedural portion of this substantial compliance. I've recently been put over the ratio study and trying to make sure everything is done accurately there. So now, back with the scorecard. You will see it up here at the very top. We have a subclass weighting. And this is only used on the statistical portion of the scorecard. So for statistics, we look at two classifications. We look at residential and commercial. We do not look at agricultural properties, vacant lots, exempt, anything else. It's purely residential and commercial. So when we do that, we want to weight each classification, and the way we weight it is based off the appraised value for those two classifications in the county. So you can see here, you know, the $427 million for residential and the 852 for commercial makes up, for these two, we want to come up with 100%. So 91% of the value is residential, 9% of the value is commercial. And again, you'll see here where those numbers play a role here coming down. So that's just the weight of these two classifications, residential and commercial, based off the appraised value. So now we talk about the actual statistical portion of it. So you can see we have, again, residential and we have commercial. And within each classification, we figure a median ratio for residential and for commercial, and then we figure a COD for residential and commercial. The median ratio, and it doesn't matter, it's the same for residential and for commercial. To be in statistical compliance, the county has to be within a 90% to 110% fair market value range. And for the COD, both for residential and commercial, the uniformity measure has to be below 20. And so you will see in this first column, this is what I refer to as the actual numbers. So for the median residential is 73.3%. That's below the 90 threshold. When you'll jump down to commercial median ratio, you'll see it's at 93.7, so it's above the 90%. The next measure is the COD. And you see that for residential, the COD actual number is 27.3, and the actual number for commercial is 42. So those are the actual statistical numbers. The next set of numbers is what we refer to as a confidence range or confidence interval. Basically, this is what determines whether the county is really in or out of statistical compliance. We used to always include the actual number as part of the calculation, but now, about 2 years ago, we changed it to look at just the range. And so the same numbers apply. For the median, one of those numbers has to be in the 90 to 110 range, or they have to encompass that. Well, you can see both of the numbers there, the 65.8 and the 79.0 are both below 90. And so county is considered out of compliance statistically on that. The COD, again, both numbers need to be, or one of those two numbers needs to be below 20. Again, the low end is 23, the high end being 33.9. County is considered out of compliance on the COD for residential. Jump down to the commercial. Now here you can see the median ratio for commercial is 40.6 to 146.7. They encompass that 90 to 110 ratio, so it's considered, even though it's a low and high range, it's considered in compliance. And statistically, based off the actual number, it's also in compliance. But now if you look at the COD for commercial, the low end being 22, the high end being 107.8, both numbers being above the 20 threshold, so it's considered out. Any questions up to that point?
You take the residentials up there, Mike, at the medium range, we're 73.3, we need to be a minimum of 90. Does that say we're all out of line with 16.7%?
Based off statistics, that's what it's telling you.
And this is based on sales, right?
And this wouldn't have happened overnight, over 1 year, would it? This has been a 2 or 3 years that it's probably happened over this differential that's an issue?
Well, yeah, usually what happens, and, what I tell I tell all the commissioners I meet with, this has been an issue ever since COVID. That's what really drew, that's what caused residential market values just to go sky high. Now, what has happened, and this is something that even happened prior to COVID, and, exists now, we tell counties you got the range of 90 to 110. Of course, nobody wants to be over 100. So in reality, you want to be somewhere between 90 and 100. 100%, perfect rule, fair market value, that's what everything sells for, that's what the appraised value is. We don't live in the perfect world, so we're never going to be at 100%. So, counties shoot for that 90 to 110. Most county appraisers like to be on the low end. They want to be in that 90 to 95 range, and that's common practice statewide. And so what happens is if you're on that low end, and, like last year, and I don't know, I'd have to look it up, I don't know what the range was last year, but potentially if you were on the low end, if all of a sudden you have a year where you have a strong market, people coming in paying a lot more than what they normally would pay for property, drives that market up, and all of a sudden, you're behind. And then you have to make the decision, okay, do I want to increase values 15, 20, 30%, whatever it may be, or do I try to ease back into this? And a lot of appraisers, they felt, and here at the state, we felt the same. We saw the big increase hit when COVID came. We thought that, okay, this is going to calm down after a couple of years. Well, I don't know for each individual county, but statewide overall, it has not settled down. The market's as strong now as it has been. We haven't really seen the reduction in the sale amounts as far as dollars being paid. We may be seeing a reduction in the number of sales that are occurring, but values are still very strong. Another factor that plays into this is in the smaller counties, and I don't know, I can tell you, I don't have it on the report here, but so for Coffee County, for these statistics, it was based off of 89 residential sales and 9 commercial sales. So, like a lot of things, the smaller that data set number, the more a few sales can have a large impact. Not saying 89 is a small number, but it's smaller than, some of the, like bigger counties, they don't have a problem. They can absorb, some people coming in and paying twice what the appraiser may have on it. But in a smaller county, if somebody comes in and pays twice what the appraiser has on it, even though, if it's a valid sale, willing buyer, willing seller, we consider that a valid sale here, and that has a huge impact on these numbers over here. You get a handful of those, and they can drive this number down real fast. So that's always something to keep into consideration when you're looking at these numbers. What we do with this information then is, each one of these is allocated 25 points, but then we take it times this weighting number from up here. So 91% of these points are assigned to residential and, 9% to commercial. And so you can see the points possible. 22.8 was for the residential median. 22.8 was for the residential COD. Both were out, so the county did not receive any of those points. And every appraiser in the state knows that if you're out on residential, you're going to be out of substantial compliance. They go hand in hand. Because, that's 45 points right there. But we'll go through the rest of it anyway. But that's a killer. I mean, there's no hiding it. Now, on the commercial portion of it, they were in on the median for the commercial. You can see they get 2.3 points. They got those. They were out on the COD, so they did not get the 2.3. So out of 50 points possible, the county received 2.3 for statistical compliance. At that point, we're going to go through the rest of the report, but at this point, the county is out of substantial compliance just based off statistics. You have to have a score of 75% or 75 out of 100, and as you can see right here, we're already below that. So that's how the statistical portion works. Now, I do tell counties that, statistically, this looks like you need to increase values 15 to 20% on residential properties. We, from the state level, are not going to tell any county they have to raise values. I don't care if it's 1%. We're just showing you statistically where the county is at currently. I don't know what the mid-year, you probably had a mid-year report.
I have it right here.
Counties may have that.
I have it.
We provide a mid-year report. I think the numbers were better on that report if I remember looking at them. But, of course, those are changed, but these numbers are based off the sales of 23 and the appraised values that were the 24 appraised values. So any questions on that?
May not be exactly on that, but does new construction have a play in this?
This is just on sales, that refers to sales.
I agree, but, I mean, there's been a lot of houses built throughout the county during this year alone.
Yeah, and there's been some that have sold that has really hurt us too.
Okay. Just curious.
The only way new construction would be involved is, say the house, if the house was built in 23 and sold in 23, it may play a factor, but usually the full appraised value on new construction doesn't occur until the following year, and those sales would not be included in this study.
It's worse for next year and the year after.
I've got this year's
he's got it.
What
It's a little bit
did
better.
what did it come up from, Connie?
It's, my, median ratio is in that range between the 90 and 110.
It is now.
Can I see that for a minute?
Yeah, it's 76.7 to 95.5.
Give me a second here, and I think I can pull it up here for you.
Median ratio is 83.3, so it,
And the COD's in.
and one of them's below 20.
No, that's last year's, hang on.
That's just residential.
Yeah, I don't have any.
So right now,
Because I haven't had those.
they're within this range.
So you're there.
This is already, what you've got right there is taking into account of the
The first
increase
6 months
that
for
already
24.
increased.
Yes,
That has already increased.
yes.
And so what we're not talking about is another 16% increase.
I hope not, but I.
Well,
can't-
that's what I'm trying to figure
Yeah,
out.
I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we gotta get down to the nuts and bolts with Mike.
We're
What-
closer this
what
year
is-
than we were last year.
Right, exactly. So if he can see what you're looking at right
He
there.
should.
Oh, yeah, he's got it up there.
So this is the mid-year I was referring to. So yeah, you can see, I mean, the actual number's still low. It's down to 83, but you can see by the range is what we use. You can see we're now, the county is back in compliance at a 95.5. And the COD is actually both the actual COD and the confidence interval are both below the 20 range. So currently, you know, as of the end of June, this is January through June sales, you know, the county is in a much better state with, you know, the values. Now, a lot of things can happen between now and December, but, you know, unless something gets really crazy, they should be in a lot better shape. And there's nothing for commercial right now because, we have to have at least 3 valid sales for each classification. And currently we don't have the 3 valid commercial sales in the county, so there was no mid-year statistics. So there was just the residential. So yeah, I mean, you know, it'll just depend on kind of how things fall, you know, between now and the end of the year. County, the appraiser's office follows that on a monthly basis. We validate sales up here on a monthly basis, and hopefully are sending our results back to the appraiser's office. One thing to keep in mind is we do our own validation, based off the SVQs. The county does have, or the appraiser does have the right to appeal anything that we, you know, sometimes we make things valid that, maybe shouldn't be valid, and the county does have the right to appeal those. But that's how this information is, you know, developed, is based off the validation process we do.
So Mike cutting through all the red numbers and tape. So as the tracking is going now for the county appraiser side, we're tracking in the upward trend of what you are wanting to see. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. So you're not here to say that the county appraiser needs to add 15% to all evaluations, residential and commercial. What has been done in the past is tracking in the right direction.
This is 2023.
2023 sales, yes.
Right.
So,
Yeah, this is 23 data, the mid-year is
Right.
was the 24s.
Right, so
Yeah,
from
so-
January until.
Yeah, as of now, the county is
Right.
tracking in a much better, like I say, the actual number's still kind of low at 83, but, you know, that's 10% higher than it is here, but we're still looking at the range, and you can see that one range on the, you know, is up to 95.5, so,
Okay.
yeah, numbers are much better as of now, anyway. Like I say, not saying the wheels won't fall off between now and December, but I would say something drastically would have to happen between now and December for that to happen.
And so in order for that to happen, then the sales would have to increase dramatically, is that correct?
Correct,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Can you explain the rest of that, Mike, where I got all my other points?
100%.
Yeah, so, the rest of this, the rest of the first page and over on the second page is what we refer to as the procedural phase. Basically, how this works is, I don't know exactly, I should count this up, but there's about a dozen to 15 different phases that the appraiser's office has to complete throughout the year. Now, for procedural, we kind of go on a July 1 to July 1 timeline. We're on ratios, on the statistical portion, it goes on a January to December 31st deadline, or time frame. So procedures, it varies from each phase. Some phases is just a matter of the county appraiser having to fill out a report and submit it to us on a timely manner. Other phases, they have to do some analysis, for example, we're looking at these here. Scope of work is the first phase. These are just reports that the county appraiser's office has to submit to us on a scope of work is a annual report submitted every April, and then the quarterly reports are reports submitted every quarter. So there's 4 of those. And then again, those are just reports that they have to fill out and submit to us on a specific timeline. The way it works here is this first column are the points that the county can possibly earn, and then this is the actual points that the county does earn. And so as we go through here, you can see, the county's received all the points. Sales file, there's just certain things that the county has to do to maintain a sales file. They're doing that. They're doing the re-inspection and quality control like they're supposed to do. Land valuations, they're doing all the documentation and analysis that's required of them. Construction cost multipliers, again, doing what needs to be done. Depreciation, this includes residential, manufactured home, commercial, and then overrides, county's doing everything. They're doing everything that needs to be done. Flip over to the second page, we get into the income approach. I'm not sure, a lot of counties are not utilizing income. We do allow them not to have to develop models. I don't remember if you're doing anything or not, Connie. But anyway, everything is being done, what needs to be done. Comp sales, county's met the requirements there. The final review process, everything is done there. So up to this point, they've gotten all 42 points that are possible. Come down to ag use. County has met all the different phase requirements here. So procedurally wise, the county has gotten 100%. They're doing 50 out of 50. So procedurally, the appraiser's office is doing everything they need to do. It's just a matter of trying to keep up with the market, and it looks like they've done a much better, based off the preliminary, things are much better, going forward than they were this past year. And it's not uncommon. It's, I think, I still have that pulled up. So you can see this dates back to 2010. This is the first year the county's been considered out of substantial compliance in the last, 14 years or whatever. So it's not something that we're concerned about, and, it's, with the market the way it's been the last 3-4 years, it's not abnormal, for us to see some of these smaller counties struggling with residential values, trying to keep up with the market. As far as going back to the top, as far as commercial, even prior to, being in, what I said, it was 9 sales, commercial is really hard to be in substantial compliance, both with the median and with the COD. two factors. One, the biggest one being the number of sales and the amount of data that they get to use or that there is to use. That's the biggest factor. And the other factor is, as far as consistency, there's not, all commercial properties for the most part, other than maybe downtown Rose, are unique. You may have 5 banks, but they're all different. They're built differently, they're brick, they're framed, or whatever they may be. Where residential, you may have 100 ranch-style homes, and so you can compare them one to another. Where you don't have that availability with commercial as much as being able to compare. You might have a bank that sells, but that bank may be an A-list bank, and the rest of them are, C banks. So commercial's just a lot more challenging. And that's one reason too we went with the weighting is, it is harder to be in compliance on the commercial side of things, So that's the scorecard in a nutshell. At the bottom here, you have the statutorial compliance part of it. We do not add points for statutorial requirements, we only deduct. So if the county did not do or did not meet one of the requirements here, they would be at -5. So the county met all the requirements, so we did not deduct anything here. So the overall score was a 52.3 out of 100. Again, it was all ratio related, so you need a 75 or above to be in substantial compliance. And so that's how the substantial compliance is determined.
That was the new numbers, Mike, for the new numbers that is available in July, or June 30, we right now, our rating would be 75 plus, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, because both of these would be considered in, so you'd be getting those 485 points.
Yeah. At what point in time will 12/31 numbers come out? Is that January, February, March?
It's usually March,
Yeah.
we have till April to get them.
Yeah, it takes a while because we don't actually get the SVQs we're usually about 15 days behind each month on getting the SVQs. So all the sales that take place in December, we don't get them until about the middle of January. However, we also look at January for any sales that took place in December. So that puts us back to the middle of February. And so, yeah, we're hoping moving forward that we'll have what we call a preliminary out, sometime in March, first part of April.
Anybody have any questions?
I don't have any more. As long as we're trending in the upward.
We're on the right direction.
Trending on the upward side, and we don't have to raise values for taxpayers is the main thing. And it just fell behind, and we knew it was behind.
Right.
Because
That's why I
Lyon
had to go
County went up the
15.
year prior, and so
Yeah, you're
we
trying,
tried to be more conservative.
Trying
I
to
was
keep it
trying to
down,
be conservative.
I know.
So,
And then it turned around and bit us on the backside,
Mhm.
so.
Well, the values during, like they said, at
Well,
COLA, the values just skyrocketed, and now we've reached a place where it's kind of leveled off or maybe retract a little bit.
I hope so. You have anything else, Mike?
Well, the only other thing I'll just take, the other document, and I don't really need to go into it because it's tied to that scorecard, and since the counties do, this document, you should have a copy of this too. This just tells you, it's a little bit more defined. It ties to the scorecard. This is the procedural part. So if the county would have happened to get a no somewhere in here, there would be a comment down in here telling you why they got a no. But the appraiser's office got yeses on everything, so there's no comments to be made. This just tells you when the trend studies were published and when they mailed CBMs. That's nothing there. This tells you like when the tax rolls were certified. This gives you the personal property information when, CVNs were mailed, if there was oil and gas when it was mailed. So that's all this is. It's just, this is tied to that scorecard. So nothing there that nothing there I need to go into. The only other thing is on the appeals, and let me quick pull that up, and then I can let you guys go unless you have further questions. I guess here. So basically, we look at 3 years of appeal information, and what this is we compare the statewide averages or totals to the individual county totals. So on commercial, again, we're looking at just commercial and residential classification. Here's the parcel counts. This is the appeal counts. Evidently, there wasn't any commercial appeals for this past year, this is based off the information that's entered into Orion at the time we run this report. So if something was entered after we ran this report, we wouldn't have it. But as of now, we didn't have any information. But you can see, this just shows you, like, for example, statewide average was 7%, a little over 7% of commercial property appeal. How many were adjusted? Statewide average was 20%. This is just for 2024. You can look at the different averages for the prior years. Now, on residential, you can see that the statewide appeal percentage was 2.27%. The counties was at 0.67%. Number of adjusted, statewide average was just below 50%, and the county average for adjustment was just over 80%. So there's nothing here that jumps out at us. The reason for this, back when they implemented this law, is supposedly, legislators were getting phone calls from constituents that they weren't getting any satisfaction at the informal appeal process or informal level. As you can see, I haven't seen any county, if they weren't getting any adjustment, this would be like zero. There'd be nothing adjusted, and we're not seeing that with any county. So, again, I don't have any issues here. Anybody have any questions? Again, it gives the same, just based off 22, based off 23, based off 24.
I don't have any questions, Mike. Appreciate your time, what we do, and explaining this to us, and it's good that we're trending upward. Hopefully we don't have to raise property values anymore.
Yeah, one thing to keep in mind, not saying that values won't go up, but you're not, right now it doesn't look like you're needing to do any type of drastic changes. Individual properties will be appraised accordingly, and some may go up, some may go down, but as a countywide average, you're going in the right direction. So, numbers are a lot better.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, thank you, and if you have any other questions, reach out to me or give Connie, and Connie always knows how to get a hold of me.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, have a good day.
Thanks, too.
Okay.
Thanks, Colin. Okay. Running a little behind. Started at 10:30, Hecate Evergy, Jack Kelly, and Harrison Luma, solar rigs, come forth.
Hello.
Morning.
Good morning.
Actually, got this to pass out. I've got one for commissioner right now.
Are you Harrison? Are you?
I'm Harrison.
Okay.
And then, I think I might have an extra two.
Thanks, sir.
Just wanted to come, introduce our project, which is very early stage, but we'll get into that in a second, and also bring a couple experts Craig Wakeman, who's our Senior Director of EPC, that's Engineering, Procurement, and Construction, and Diane Sullivan, who's our Head of Environmental and Permitting for all of Hecate Energy. Jack Kelly, some of y'all might know, he's been around, he's on our development team, and Jalen, who's in our community outreach team as well. We want to be available to answer questions from this board, from any commissioner as they have them. We want to be helpful. We want to make ourselves, available for anything you all need. And we want to act in a transparent manner before the community, before the public, and be supportive should we bring a project to this county. So a little bit about Hecate Energy, the company that we work for. Hecate is a leading developer of renewable energy solutions across the country. Hecate has developed over 47 solar projects and energy storage projects exceeding 11.1 gigawatts across the country. These are operated by utilities, financial investors, independent power producers. Hecate's projects total $12 billion in asset value across the country. We maintain ready access to capital needed to carry energy infrastructure projects through the development cycle into construction, into operations. In addition to developing over $3 billion of assets, Hecate has access to more than $1 billion in development capital to get our projects to the goal line. So we're looking at a landscape across the country in which data centers, new manufacturing demand, increased consumer demand are driving an increased need to generate electricity. That's not uniform, that's not just here, that's across the country. And what we're noticing, and our opinion is that communities who embrace this dynamic will win. It's funny, I walked in the room and it says, Coffee County, come explore our energy. I just noticed that when I came in. The communities that are willing to incorporate energy development and smart growth into their future development goals are going to reap benefits for their foresight. That's our opinion. We're in the early stages of developing the Otter Creek Solar Farm. It's, actually, you can look at this map, generally in this area, southwest of the John Redmond Reservoir. We've got a little bit over 8,500 acres that private citizens have volunteered to lease and have agreed to lease land to the project. Not all of that land will be used, but that's about the amount that we have what we call site control over. We're still very early in developing these projects. Prior to county...
Excuse me, what do you
Sure.
mean by very early? This project you don't think would develop if it goes ahead and approved? It wouldn't develop in a year or 2 years or 3 years? When you say you're in early stages, what's that mean?
When I say early stages, I mean we have a site and we have control over that site, and then we have a interconnect queue position with SPP. Other than that, we've gotten studies on our land, but we don't even have a rule to follow as far as it goes to permitting in this county. So the path to this project being completed is quite uncertain given the lack of an ordinance here that's in place, right? We're happy to come here and we're happy to, spend great resources in developing a project here, but we can't spend those resources without an ordinance in place. So we can do our studies, which we have done, and Diane can maybe talk about that too in a second. But we're not in a place where we are investing massive amounts of money and effort and engineering dollars into this project yet because it's unclear. I talked about the interconnect queue position. That process takes multiple years to go through. And we have two different queue positions for what we call the Otter Creek Solar Farm. They're kind of split in half. So there's one that's 1 year ahead of the other, and that allows for a phased approach to construction. And on this one site, what's probably going to happen at the end of the day is there will be two independently operating phases, or you could even call them projects, that share a fence line. All right? So once we get through those studies, again, that's probably 2 years away to get the last of those studies done. Then we can start construction, assuming that we have everything else done, like a permit. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You said 2 phases.
Yeah.
So it'd be 500 megawatts per phase, and that would equal to 1 gigawatt. And I have no idea what that means, but,
Right.
so the 8,500 acres is, you're not planning, say something does go on.
Mhm.
So the 8,500 acres is the only project that, I mean, you're not,
We have no plans for other development other than this site.
okay.
Right. And I'd say those, 50/50, 500/500 for a gigawatt, that's an approximation at this point. We're not even that far along. It could be a little bit smaller, it could be a little bit bigger.
And you said earlier that you had so many solar projects already under your belt,
Mm-hmm.
and that equaled to?
12 gigawatts, or 11.1 gigawatts.
11.1 gig, okay.
Yeah, so 10 times what we're doing. And these projects have gotten larger over time, so I said 47 projects. That would mean the average project that we've done is smaller. That's true. The size of projects that people have been doing in this industry has grown over time. And what's going on now is the biggest developers, the developers who are making, the most projects in this company, tend to go to the 345 kV big transmission lines. It used to be you couldn't do that. It used to be nobody was, making projects big enough or gathering financing large enough to do projects that large. But as the cost of solar has fallen, and as the sophistication of the pool of investors and banks that are willing to look at solar projects has grown, the size of projects has grown along with it. But I wanted to talk a little bit, actually, before we hop, about those queue positions. When we study those projects, we being the Southwest Power Pool, they assume that all generators that are already on are on. And they say, what would we have to do to start a new project, assuming everything that's there is still there? And they say, maybe we have to add a substation here, maybe we have to add a line over here. That means that, for example, a Wolf Creek is locked in before we ever do our study. The assumptions under the studies for us to plug in assume Wolf Creek is on, and other generators. So, point being, we're not competitive in any way with Wolf Creek. We don't, have any negative impact on their operations. We're just separate, okay? In fact, the timeline for our plugging in final commercial operation for the project has to coordinate with Wolf Creek. Because Wolf Creek is a nuclear plant, it has special regulations. We have to wait until it's in a regular maintenance outage window in order to plug onto that line. Because our line's running straight from, Wolf Creek's somewhere over here. We're connecting on a line coming right out of Wolf Creek. Point being, those regular outage windows don't happen all that often. They happen every maybe 1.5 years. And if we get delayed, by something going on other than that interconnect, then it can be a big delay if it causes us to trip that 1.5 years. But today we're here to introduce this project. That's sort of what I just did. We can get into more details as you all want or as needed. And then also talk about the significant economic impacts that would come from this project, would it come to the county, okay? And those impacts generally fall into 3 categories. There are construction time period impacts. These are mainly jobs, other impacts flowing from people coming into this county to work, like gas station, restaurants, temporary housing, that kind of stuff. Second category is during operations. You have a smaller amount, because this is a relatively simple thing to operate. You only need maybe 11 employees, but those kinds of jobs and related economic spend. And the third, which is taxes and things that look like taxes. And that's the big one, and the one that the county might care about the most. But
And you're talking, that would be pilot program, or,
yeah, and
Or-
I don't use the word pilot here, but
Okay.
commonly it'd be called pilot. This is a voluntary donation. Well, yeah, we'll start with taxes. So this state has a mandatory 10-year tax abatement on personal property related to solar farms and other renewable energy generators. So by law, there's no personal property tax on those first 10 years. What we do is that voluntary contribution to the county in that time period. We're estimating about $1.5 million a year for that payment to the county, and that is separate from, there's still real property tax issued on the underlying land. So we're calling that about $160,000 a year. That's the first 10 years. Then, after that, in year 11 and on, personal and real property both would be taxed at county rates. We're estimating $7.9 million per year on average when we get to that point. So, and it breaks down across the various mills, right? I get $35 million in payments to the school district out of that. In years 1 through 10 for the schools, that's the equivalent of 290 laptops a year, so about $53,000. After year 10, it jumps up to $1.72 million for schools. And that's about 5% of the school district budget total.
and those I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep interrupting.
No, you're okay.
But your numbers are based on the 1 gigawatt.
Correct. That's based on the 1 gigawatt.
Right.
That's right. Yeah, City of Burlington, $52 million in additional tax over the life of the project. Total tax from the project, I have $177 million across the various mills. When I look at that, one of the things that I think about is, so Wolf Creek pays the great majority of this county's taxes, which is great. That's a wonderful project to have. But what we would provide is redundancy, diversity, a diversified tax base, you know, so that, God forbid, something should happen to the Golden Goose, you're not just totally gone. You've got other energy projects, other, you know, large uses that can buffer, you know, your tax base. This project represents about 6% of the tax base in this county right now per year. So, with that said, I am curious if you all have any questions. I do have really experienced people on anything having to do with the project, permitting, environmental stuff, how does it get built, whatever you'd like to ask, we've got our people to help answer.
I've got a few questions, and I mean, I'm just, has erosion concerns, runoff, what's the study that you've done for stuff like that?
Sure.
Is there any information that's available on
I think
that?
both Craig and I can address those questions around stormwater and erosion control. If you look at the last page of the FAQ, I think it's worth noting that everything Harrison just said is in the FAQ document that you have in front of you. Just to kind of help, you know, reinforce the conversation, like the economic benefit numbers that he just relayed are in there, so that you have time to look at those more closely later. But on the last page of the handout I provided to you is a list of studies that we will conduct, that we would support any county permit application. And so, you know, to date, we have already done our topographic surveys of the project site, which would form the foundation of the engineering plan. We've also conducted a hydrology study, so a detailed hydrology study that would indicate the amount of inundation that we might see anywhere in the project area, if there's any floodplains in the project area that we would avoid during construction and operation of the project, with the siting of the panels themselves. And then also we would be required to, you know, comply with national pollution, the NIPSEA permit for the project, right? We would prepare a stormwater pollution prevention plan, and that would have both the stormwater practices that we would control sediment and erosion control during construction, but also during operation of the project after the site is restored following construction. So we would be required to follow state stormwater standards both during construction and obviously once the project is a permitted facility. So you might see things during construction like standard erosion control that we see for all construction projects, like, you know, silt fences and filter stocks and things like that. But then once the project's operating, it's pretty likely we might have some stormwater retention ponds or some other not as visible green erosion control standards that you might see around the project during construction, especially around the substation, because there'll be some gravel there. But underneath the panels themselves, it's going to be all vegetated, so we don't expect there to be a lot of impervious surfaces created by the project, except for the access roads that we would construct inside the fences.
After the panels are installed, if you will, everything goes to some sort of vegetation. What kind?
Yeah, that's correct. So what we typically do is we find a relatively low-growing, pollinator-friendly native seed mix. But it's really flexible what we can do, because a lot of communities have some strong feelings about what kind of revegetation they'd like to see in and around the fenced-in area. You know, a location like here, we really have to consider fire management, so we might think about what we might do for fire prevention or fire blocking around the outside perimeter of the fencing. But inside the fence, we would want to put a low-growing native or naturalized seed mix that's, you know, obviously common to this area, so that we could promote, you know, heavy revegetation. And so our standard from a stormwater perspective is that there be 80% coverage of vegetation all in and around the fenced-in area. But that can be, you know, a pollinator-friendly species. It can be, you know, just something that doesn't, you know, interfere with the bottom of the fence and doesn't require too frequent of mowing. But because we do maintain fine
You
mowing.
probably wouldn't go back with native grasses.
We could go in with native grasses, but what we would have to do is select
It makes-
species that don't grow too tall too fast.
Right.
Yeah.
That, like your big blues.
Which would not be something to put in this area, because then it's going to transfer to another field, to another field, to another field, possibly,
Yeah, knock out.
It's why we tend to prefer native or naturalized species to the area. You know, we wouldn't be, you know, picking something that only grows in Pennsylvania, certainly.
Sure.
You know, we would pick something that's native to Kansas.
Underneath the panels, do you ever consider laying a board, I don't know what the right word is, a border down, then lay 3-4 inches of rock on it so that you don't have to worry about anything under the panels growing?
Yeah, we would love to do that. I mean, it's really expensive.
So you
The
could do that in
aggregate-
place of native grass or something?
You could. That aggregate's real expensive, but also, you know, that's not really great for local wildlife populations, right?
I understand that side of it too,
Yeah.
the wildlife's important.
Wildlife is important, and we really do, you know, we tend to create a way that small critters can still get in outside of the fence. You know, we're not really looking for, you know, to have any kind of bigger species inside of the fenced-in area, but it's not really great from a stormwater perspective to just put aggregate down, but I've certainly seen projects like, you know, in more rural areas where people did put an aggregate base down just to keep the, you know, mowing to a minimum, but we have such a big footprint here, we wouldn't want to offset all that vegetation, right? We would want to promote.
And you talked about pollinators, I mean, that would be
Mhm.
something that would be,
Yeah, I mean, it's a really common approach these
Right,
days,
right,
you know, folks selecting seed mixes that
Sure.
are, you know, beneficial to pollinators.
How are these projects funded? What's the funding track of this? Is this private investors? Is this,
Yeah.
I mean,
So Hecate Energy funds the entire development of the projects. What's typical for a project of this size, a really large one, is you have a combination of, you know, large private investors that end up owning it. It's things like insurance companies, utilities, large, you know, very conservative investors, and bank debt, and it's called tax equity, which is a federal ITC granted benefit that exists for solar projects in the United States and can be monetized by companies. A company can buy a tax equity from the project. So that's the three. It's in our case, in this project space, all private funding, no plans for any public funding at all, and that's how it works.
who regulates, like nuclear is highly regulated. So how are you folks regulated? I mean, I'm sure it's not quite as stringent maybe as nuclear, but there's got to be regulations somewhere that
Yeah, there's various entities that form our regulating body, because we're connected to the grid, so we're regulated by local grid policies. You know, because the project doesn't actually have like steam or other things, there's less of a regulating body like NERC or something.
Right.
I mean, there are for utility safe regulations, we do fall under NERC in terms of cybersecurity and other things like that. But a lot of our regulations are federal codes in terms of pollution prevention, you know, things.
And that falls under
OSHA.
the federal.
Yeah, lots of federal codes. They're not, like, so for background, you know, I'm a lifelong Kansas resident. I worked at Black & Veatch doing conventional generation for 22 years before I started at Hecate. So, in reality, even your conventional gas-fired power plants, they don't have like a body quite like NERC, you know, because nuclear is so specific, it has its own body, but generally, there are industry-wide codes or government federal codes that cover the safe operation of the facility.
And again, I knew those regulations wouldn't be as stringent as like your
Well,
but.
Yeah, they're still stringent,
But
but
they're still in place.
Yeah, specifically, I mean, when you get down to the brass tacks, you know, we have some major electrical components on site that are, you know, designed towards National Electrical Code and IEC standards, and, you know, per IEEE type design standards. So, like, there are a lot of bodies that feed into the safe operation of the plant, and, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So another question I got, let's just say you got this solar farm going on, and there are these solar panels out there, and gigantic hailstorm come through and destroys the panels, and it rains 12 inches, and is there any liquid inside the panels that leak down and pollute and contaminate the reservoirs? I mean, there's been a lot of misinformation out there about solar panels as death to everybody, and so I just want to ask if there's any liquid of any sort dissolving.
So there isn't liquid. So there's a couple of things that you bring up some good points. So back in the day, way long ago, the panels were made with cadmium telluride, okay, which had the potential to be toxic. Okay, I don't know if there's ever a demonstrated case where it was, but these panels are polysilicon, so they're basically made of sand, and they have glass. So in the case, so what happens in operation? There is the highest risk portion of the project is during construction when not everything's operational. Once things are operational, the plant watches weather very closely. Okay, and that's a great industry to be in because like weather forecasting is really important business for something like this. And if a storm is approaching, the panels will go to their maximum tilt angle away from the wind. So when the hail starts coming down, yeah, you may get some glances, but hopefully they're not straight on. If it's flat like this and hitting, it's going to definitely cause some damage. And there's been projects in construction that have had some significant damage. They're also building them more robustly. The panels, there are new panels coming out that have thicker top glass, other things to help prevent hail damage. But the key issue you asked about is toxicity of the panels. So the polysilicon panels have been through EPA testing, where what they do essentially is they take the panels and they grind them up into really small pieces, and they put them in a jar and flush it with acid, okay, for 10 hours, shake it up, do everything they can. This is a standard toxicity test that they run for basically any component. Okay, and then they flush that all out with water, and they check that water for any toxins. And the panels are not toxic. The only thing in the panels is there are trace amounts of lead, because when you have these cell modules together, they're soldered together, and that uses trace amount of lead. They're trying to get, most people are trying to get that out, but still, you know, the average panel has less lead in it than a battery that you're using in your like a AAA battery. So it's very trace amount, and even that, like, it's just not going to break down and get into your water system. And these panels actually don't really break. Even if the hail hits them, you can go Google what happens. They're laminated glass. So basically you have a broken glass panel that's laminated, and you have to replace it. You know, they're not falling apart. You're not going to have fields strewn with glass at the end of this. You know, you're going to remove the panels, and you're going to replace a new one.
Project will carry insurance,
Yep.
you know, robust insurance. In
Right.
the case of some adverse weather
Right.
event, insurance pays for it.
So if a tornado comes through and strings these panels for 4 miles in every direction,
Yeah.
you guys are the ones going out there and taking care of that stuff. If something like that should ever happen. I mean, the chances of it's happening are slim to none.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I can see a cow out there chewing on a solar panel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the chew wires.
Yeah, I mean, most of these systems are designed for wind speeds in the 120 range. Obviously, tornadoes are higher than that.
It's just a good Kansas day around here.
Yeah.
Some days, yeah. Some days. Have you guys done any wildlife studies out in that area? You have?
Yeah, we have. We've done a couple of different ones. So we always start with a desktop analysis. We always contact Kansas Wildlife, and then there's a federal agency has a public database called IPAC that we go to just to find out what habitat is present in the project site. Then we follow up with field studies, which we've done. So we did a detailed ecological survey of all 8,500 acres that that study area of all the leased land for the project area, and we've mapped out basically every vegetative community type and habitat type in the project area. So there's no critical habitat in this project area. It's not like Flint Hills and things like that. So, we basically categorize areas that are, have some shrub vegetation or forested vegetation or what might be conducive to house certain or endangered species or be suitable habitat for certain endangered species. And those studies will all form a foundation for what areas we much expect we would use and which ones we would avoid.
And so you really haven't gotten any kickback from the Kansas Wildlife
No.
Department or anything like that, which really doesn't surprise me none.
And
But you
those studies
could.
are third
You could.
party also.
Yeah, you could if you have high,
Right.
native tall grass prairie, but that condition doesn't exist in this project.
We're in a pretty good flyway for geese and ducks in the fall, and I know the Gridley area the last 3 or 4 years, and that's what we're talking about. I don't know what the fly pattern, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
It's a lot heavier in Gridley than what it is in our Leroy area where I'm from. Do the panels, they do a lot of reflecting, I'm sure. Do they affect that flyway in any way, shape, or form?
I've never heard of any. So the panels do have an anti-reflective coating on them to reduce glare. There's obviously going to be specific areas where, just like you take your glasses, you can shine, you can get it just right. But I've never heard of any migratory birds having any issues with it. Because they're going to be quite far from the actual panels themselves, and they're going to move past that specific area of glare pretty quickly. But there's never been any that I know of any field reports of issues.
No, I agree, especially in the eastern U.S. Like the more common being in the desert Southwest when there isn't any other water features. But obviously the reservoir being so nearby, they're creatures of habit.
Well, there are, but 10 years ago, there wasn't any Canadian geese staying in our community year-round.
Yeah.
Canadian geese stay in our area year-round now, and quite a number of them.
What we more commonly see is actually the use of the project sites after they're constructed by grassland birds. Because, we're basically creating a condition where all of that woody encroachment that you see in other places where the shrubs are coming up and basically converting, the natural succession that happens when shrubs grow where you no longer have maintained grassland. So those aren't preferred fields any longer for grassland birds, but when they see constructed projects that are full of vegetation and nice perches to use, we see obviously a lot of use of the site by grassland birds.
How much of your project spent on landscaping and maintenance?
I think, if I recall right, $2.1 million a year in operational economic impact. Some of that's mowing, but not all of it.
2.1 million per year is
Yeah.
what your estimate is?
Yeah, that's not just for mowing, that's for, everybody employed during operations locally here.
What about people hired?
About 11 a year.
11 a year.
Auction.
Total?
During operations. During construction, it will be more like 550, maybe even a little bit more than that. But
So once it's up and running, it's 11 people
Yeah.
that handles
Oh, that's
everything.
not, I was thinking it was 18 for this project, but it's gonna be somewhere in that range, it's under 20 people, it's not.
Under
a lot.
20 people.
Yeah.
You know, that study here by BBC
Mhm.
says 18 direct impact employees and 17 secondary.
There you
I
have
don't
it.
know exactly what that is, but that's a total of 35 per year, 35 employees on
Yeah.
site.
So that, the direct is that number that Diane just referred to. Yeah, you wanna talk about secondary? I can do secondary.
Yeah, so, I mean, so secondary is gonna be like the mowing people that come in. So they come in, they're obviously not, they're gonna be a specialty person that comes in and mows 2-3 times a year.
They're not full-time.
Yeah, they're
Right.
full-time, so.
Yeah, because they're, you know, the average cost is 1.4 million, but 17, you're still looking at quite a few dollars per employee,
Yeah.
What
but
would
this
be,
study shows 35 employees.
what would be the average pay of the 11 to 19 employees that are there full-time? I'm just a rough estimate.
I mean, I would wing the $78,000
Yeah,
a year
that's
type of
right.
number.
Would you say 70?
70.
70?
Yeah, I mean, 'cause you're gonna obviously, I mean, that's kind of the net average, right? You're gonna have some low-level
Right.
people, and then you'll have your site foreman or whatever who's making, you know, probably over 100, but, you know, the average is probably in that range. Because they're skilled technicians,
Right.
you know, and they're relatively in demand, so.
Yeah, and the types of activities during operations are you're mowing, you have skilled technicians who are going and checking equipment, making repairs as needed, that kind of thing. Security, these are the kind of roles that you're looking at.
Is there security around that from the day it's started to the day it's,
This large one, yeah.
for 20, 30 years, whatever long it is? You got full-time security around it.
Yeah, and, you know, that role might be, that's a role that's gonna know everybody at the fire department. That's a role that's probably your first, you know, contact for the project, for the community, somebody on site.
And everything's been sent, so the panel areas themselves are fully secured, and then the substation itself is fully secured.
You said it's the whole area is fenced off?
Mm-hmm. And, well, it'll be cut up by roads, right, so.
Well, I mean, sectional.
Right.
Just look, observation, I travel across country, work nuclear.
Cool.
I've seen a bunch of these solar cities in North Carolina,
Mhm.
and the weeds grow up. Secondary income, sheep farmers, they allow sheep and goat farmers to graze all that grass out from under.
We've seen it, in fact, we've done it on projects in New York.
I've heard sheep, maybe goats, because goats like to climb.
Goats
but
are no good because they chew and they climb.
They like to chew and climb. The
Yeah.
sheep,
Sheep
the
are
sheep
better.
grazing is
Goats like to
good.
go to the spot.
So on agrivoltaics, we're very careful about where we introduce that. It's a great idea, but there's a number of things that would really need to happen. So Harrison specifically mentioned New York, where he and I are both working on a project that's gonna integrate sheep grazing. There's a local, there are local farmers that currently have flocks of sheep. There's enough water up there for the sheep. There's just the right type of climate. There's a local place to overwinter the sheep. That may or may not be present here. So we're hesitant to come in early in a project before this issue has been studied and say, we're committed to grazing sheep on a site. Like, it's a really great concept, and we would really love to integrate code uses, especially agricultural code uses, but we would never commit to it until we did a study and determined that this is the right site for it, because we obviously didn't want failure on this topic. So I just wanted to say that Hackaday as a company is committed to investigating that, but we would never be able to commit to something this early in the review process to something like that.
Right.
So one question I had, and which we kind of had this issue with the wind farm, and you can either say yay or nay. Would you guys bond a decommissioning plan or finance prior to the construction, like up front for a
Absolutely.
decommissioning?
Yep.
Minus your recyclables or whatever you want to call that.
Yeah, depending on what state you're in, it's become somewhere between happening often and absolutely every single time that you'll have a decommission bond posted that's sufficient for taking down the entire project, and it's posted and remains at the county or at whichever governing body for the entire project.
Would you guys want to do a bond, or could you do a,
You can do LC bond, you know, it's,
Either of those is common.
Yeah.
What is other
I don't really care for the bonds. I'd much rather do like a, escrow.
I mean, the form of it is easy to work out at the end of the day. But we typically done letters of credit and bonds. Have we done escrow?
I mean, because that's time and cash.
Yeah.
But the LOC is the same as cash, so
And then typically there'd be a performance standard, like if the project were not operating for a year, because what I see from folks like you that are mostly concerned with is, okay, what if Hecate goes belly up and the project stops operating and nobody takes care of it, which would never happen because it's such an intensive resource. But if it were not operating, and we're just sitting there unmowed, unmaintained, and not cared for a year, then that would be a triggering event for decommissioning.
Mm-hmm.
So it wouldn't be only applicable at the end of the useful life of the project. It could have some performance standards intermediate.
I've got another question. Are you guys gonna use, battery storage, the big ones that look like semi-trailers?
We will not. This project does not contemplate any energy storage. It's just solar.
How do you arrive, we've been talking about decommission, so I'll take one more step.
Sure.
30 years from now, how do we arrive at a value that will take care of everything?
So
Decommission in 30 years, because none of us are gonna be here.
Yeah, it's a
We need
good
to protect it for our county.
Typically, what you do is you have that bond posted at, today, not today, but at the beginning of the construction of the project, and then it triggers a re-up every few years. You have to look and make sure, where's inflation at? Does this bond amount still make sense? Should it go up some? Should it go down some? And you do that regularly throughout the project.
Yeah, we commonly see something where, like, I just am thinking of a project that we just finished the decommissioning bond on. It's a 500 megawatt project also, and after 1 year, after the first year, after the project is constructed, there'll be a reevaluation at that time, and then it's every 5 years over the life of the project.
Every 5 years it is
Reassessed for
reappraised.
the cost to do the decommissioning minus salvage value or recycling.
Right.
There won't be any of us there at that time, there might be some of you, but how do we
Probably
put?
not me.
Now, I forgot just exactly how to word it, but this will all be put in writing prior to installation of anything
Right.
on site.
So, I was just thinking about this. The best way to make sure that is making sure your ordinance has a permit requirement for decommissioning. If you lay it out in your ordinance and it's there and we must comply, then if we fail to comply, we have no permit anymore. That's the best way to ensure it.
Yeah, and from my perspective, like as a construction guy, I like these projects because they're really easy to decommission. Like the only foundation or the only real concrete on the site is usually in the substation. All these posts that are embedded are just driven into the ground. So you just come by with an excavator, click, 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 click. It goes on a cart. The recycling guys are going to take it, all that steel, and what you're left with is what you came for. Like it's round, it's still got topsoil because we use the vegetation. They're nice and they're easy and they're clean to decommission.
So I don't have a concrete contract with you.
What? Well, the foundation, the substation.
Sorry, you've heard that, some of the rumors around, I'm a concrete contractor and I have a contract with you guys already. He's got the contract with Ross.
Money's passing right under the desk, right now.
All the time.
All I got to say is show me the contract, that's all I got to say.
Yeah, to be clear, we don't.
$70,000 for mower, do I gotta provide my own mower?
Go ahead.
I do got, a lot of what I hear is the setbacks.
Mhm.
Now, the best way I can describe it is you have an 80 acres that you're gonna use.
Mm.
And there's a road over here, there's a road here, and it ends, the rest is somebody else's field that you don't have permission.
Right.
How does that work out for you?
So, let's see, on this area,
I don't know quite how to word it.
80 acre square?
anywhere? I mean, do you have anywhere? Again, a lot of what I'm hearing is people, you know, these are gonna be so close to the road, that's all you're gonna see, yada, yada, yada.
Okay, so on setbacks, there's a few different kinds. We typically see from setback from an adjacent property, so a parcel line, you know, where the adjacent property is not part of the project, that would have a setback. And I'll talk about amounts in just a second. Then right-of-way, you know, road, setting back from the edge of the right-of-way on the road. And then the third is non-residential or non-participating residential structures, which is basically neighbors' houses, neighbors who aren't a part of the project. And on those non-participating houses, that's normally the largest setback. On a recent project that we've worked on, it was 250 feet.
250, you said?
250.
Okay.
That's among the larger I've seen, and we're happy to accommodate, you know, setbacks from non-participating residences. In fact, those are the kinds of groups that we want to talk to, because we also want to help with landscaping. You know, if they don't want to see anything, we can add vegetative screening. If they want a particular kind, or they like seeing it, but they still want, you know, this particular tree that they like, we like to work individually with neighbors on stuff like that, and make the project a good neighbor. That's what we want to do. So we're happy to do that. Back to our roads and parcel line setbacks, though, what we typically see is something around 75 feet. We've seen higher than that, we've seen lower than that. I think, is it Lyon County? Lyon County is 40 feet.
Lyon and Franklin counties, 35, 40 feet?
Yeah, I
Something
think
like
it's
that.
40, right? Yeah.
I think it's 40.
Yeah, Franklin's 40. But I've seen 100 feet. We're gonna accommodate, should we have an ordinance that has reasonable setbacks, we'll accommodate what those setbacks are, and we'll try to design a project that can, you know, work within those bounds. What was in the ordinance that was drafted was, what, 1250 or 1300, something like that?
1300.
1320.
Quarter mile.
Yeah, that we can't do. That just kills the project.
So I work in all the states, California, Ohio, New York, some of the tougher jurisdictions, because they're all regulated by the state. So the counties don't get to make decisions, the state makes the decisions. And so the permit application processes are just more arduous, and the setback requirements are of the higher that I see from all the counties that we work in. So if you use New York as an example, which we've just recently gotten a project approved there that's about the same size as this project, those setbacks are 50 feet from property lines and 250 from non-participating residences. So that's really kind of the, you know, Cadillac of setbacks.
Yeah.
And then when we think about where we would cite actual vegetation screening, that's based on a study that we'll do. I kind of describe it a little bit in the FAQ handout to you, but we'd actually do a viewshed analysis where we'd say, okay, off-site resident, we don't want to impact you. We'll see how much intervening vegetation is already around their house. And when we do a landscape plan, we'll consider the existing views into the proposed facility, or we'll consider that in our layout. So that area between the road and between the panels, there would be vegetation and fencing. So that's located within that setback that we're talking about.
Yeah, and I think
Vegetation you're gonna grow there, or it'll take 10 years for it to grow to not see the panels.
Yeah,
And
we
that's what
usually-
those people are wanting to do, or else put a 15-foot berm.
So, we have used berms in the past, and what they do is lead to vegetation failure, because they don't, that artificially, you know, stockpiled topsoil doesn't lead to like kind of natural vegetation establishment. So, I would recommend against berms, just because it doesn't promote healthy landscaping.
Where you can get the dirt from.
Yeah, I mean, that's another great
Dig this
point.
pond
super.
We do have to stockpile some topsoil though, because especially if you're in an agricultural field, we'll strip some of the topsoil just to create our access road, and we'll reserve that topsoil for decommissioning to spread around later. But not so much that you would just create all these artificial looking berms all around the project area. We want them to look as natural as possible. So But on the landscaping, usually the landscape selection that we pick will be a mix of coniferous and deciduous trees and shrubs. So it won't be just uniform trees that get planted. There'll be a landscaping module that will select with species that are common to here that, you know, don't have a lot of wildlife browse and things like that. Like, we're thoughtful about the vegetation screening plan that we'll put forward.
Yeah, and typically the goal is not to make invisible the projects.
Right.
It's to break up the monotony of the.
And soften views from residential, you know, from homes.
If somebody's living right next to it and they want it to be invisible, that kind of thing, from their house, that's easier to do. But don't typically just run a
perimeter
wall.
Wall of trees,
I have another question. How does your equipment stand up to pasture fires? You know what a pasture fire is?
Yes. So.
Because we're in Tornado Alley, but we have more pasture fires here every year. So how would you think that would stand up to a grass fire rolling through underneath your panels?
Yeah, the first place starting here is before we ever construct something in the permitting phase, once there's rules established, we'll coordinate with the fire department and get y'all's local advice on how should we design a fire safety plan here. Because we want, you know, fire breaks, for example, on the perimeter. We want a protocol that happens if, you know, somebody's, as it happens, those ranchers are out there call, hey, there's something starting up, let's go take care of it.
I'm a former fire chief around here.
Yeah.
So I kind of know what.
We want to know, you know, honestly, we want to know how y'all do it. We want to learn from y'all, and we want to set it up such that the fire risk is mitigated down as little as it can go before any fire ever gets onto our site. And should fire get onto the site, I'm going to have to kick it to Craig.
Yeah, I mean, in reality, you know, the fires aren't going to melt the panels. You know?
I know, but your electric wires, insulators on them.
Yeah, so all of our high voltage lines buried.
But the problem is fighting the fire within that field.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not gonna be able to drive trucks out there, we're gonna be driving lines. I think that's where you're at.
Once the fire hits your fence and goes through the fence, the fire department won't, their equipment is not small enough to go between all your panels.
That's where we drive.
So it's your equipment will be exposed to high heat for a short period of time as the fire rolls through it.
Yeah, so I mean, normally, when we have developed the layout, we have roads in between the blocks.
Okay.
Which will act as a natural fire break. And those roads will be designed such that the fire equipment could get to those locations. Obviously, they're not getting in between the roads, but they could set up and spray that area. You're right, the DT cable that comes out of the back of the panel, could be susceptible to fire issue. It's easily replaced in the end. You know, if the fire's really big, we have inverters, we have other things that could be susceptible. I mean, it's just like any house, like a house. I mean, there are always risks, but we will work as much as we can to mitigate.
You've got, this is off that subject, but you've got 8,500 acres of leased ground.
Yeah.
So to build this 1 gigawatt solar farm, how many acres, I mean, are you looking at 4,000 to 5,000 acres then under panels? I mean, roughly?
About the range.
I think that'd be about the correct range.
Yeah.
We just did another 500 megawatt project together that's, you know, in the 2,500 acre range. But they're all different because it depends on how contiguous we can make the panel configuration. But that'd be about what we'd be looking at.
Yeah, and technology is evolving so quickly. Like, when I started with Hecky, we were looking at 350 megawatt panels, and now, or 350 kilowatt watt panels. Now we're at panels that are 650. They're slightly larger, but not that much larger. You know, so like when we do this layout, you know, that we keep shrinking down that around.
And quite honestly, where I stand, I'm not against solar at all.
Mm-hmm.
The size of the project concerns me. It just does. That's a large project. Is it not? I mean, that's...
So Wolf Creek actually has about 9,000 acres.
Well, actually, they've got 11,000 to 12,000 acres that they purchased through, I mean, in 74 and 75 and 76. I think roughly 8,500 acres of it is under water or what. I think, I may be wrong, but I think that's about where they are.
Yeah.
But by the same token, Wolf Creek employs
800.
lots of people, and I'm not putting down, look, I'm not putting down I'm not putting down solar, but those are some of my concerns.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me that this county, and I would never speak for you, but just as I've driven here, there's at least 4 different kinds of energy, infrastructure in this county already. There's a lot of ONG, oil and gas exploration here. There's wind, there's nuclear, and and transmission, yeah. So it seems a consistent use in my eyes, and yeah, I don't know. We'd be happy to be a part of it, that's all I mean.
I know. I just wanted you to know where I stood.
Okay.
That's the concerns I have with that larger project. Which I understand as far as a business model, I mean, that would be the best project for you folks. I do understand that.
There's more than one way to look at it too. So let's say that you're powering a given population using as little impacts to residents as possible. So you have a certain amount of energy you need to power solar. Should you do that with 100 1-megawatt projects or 1 100-megawatt project? If you do it with the 100 1-megawatt projects, it'll disperse itself around whatever geographic area it is, and you'll have a lot of people and a lot of places that are impacted by that. If you do one large project, by its nature, it will have one perimeter, and that's the area where impacts are going to occur. So it's my philosophy that these large projects are the way to have the lowest impact associated with this generation.
And I don't disagree with that. I don't, but you're going to be generating basically the same amount that Wolf Creek's generating right now. I mean, maybe a little bit under, but pretty darn close. And
The capacity factor is
capacity
different.
factor.
Yeah.
The capacity, Wolf Creek is 99%, and we're gonna be lower than that, but in
Right.
terms of total peak power, yeah.
Right. Another concern is we don't want to jeopardize Wolf Creek as far as,
Yeah, like I said, they're in-competitive. They do not compete with one another in any way. When we're studied by Southwest Power Pool, the independent system operator for the grid, they must and they do assume that Wolf Creek, as well as every other generator, is on when they study whether we can get on. They have to do that.
so I'm sorry.
So when the independent system operator,
Right.
who's responsible for the grid and its safety and reliability, they study our project and say, what do you need to get onto the grid? And when they do that study, they study it with Wolf Creek on, they study it with every other electric generation on that's already existing. So they can't say you're allowed on, but only if you shut off somebody else. They have to say, you're allowed on, so is everybody else if you do.
We are not allowed to impact.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not even allowed to interconnect to the grid unless Wolf Creek's down for regular maintenance. We have to bend the knee to Wolf Creek everywhere.
But also on the same side though, the cheaper the power goes out first.
Mm-hmm.
And if Wolf Creek is a higher per kilowatt, then they're brought back and the cheaper power goes down the line
Wolf
prior
Creek's
to.
base load, they're on all the time.
Well, I know they're on, but they might be operating at 75% because,
No, Wolf Creek runs at 100%. It puts out 1,200 million watts of electricity every hour. It's a baseline, it holds the grid. Somewhere there's a guy in a control room, he knows Wolf Creek is loading. These people he can add these people like 3 o'clock in the afternoon when lots of people are turning the air conditioner on. He can bring these in to keep the grid stable. The grid operates between this voltage and this voltage. If it starts dropping, he can bring this guy in this control room somewhere, can bring it in other plants. Oil-fired plants, gas turbines, they sit idle all day at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on hot summer days, you'll hear them start up because the grid level is floating. So this is kind of how everything works off the entire grid. There's some guys in a control room controlling how much electricity ions are flying here to there. Wolf Creek supplies 15% of the Kansas City metropolitan load and 100% of Wichita's. And then there's other branches that pop off of the substations.
The grid up above is something that is mind-blowing of what the grid looks like.
It's,
I don't
it's
even
pretty
have a clue.
amazing. At any moment, the amount of energy being made on the grid and being consumed is equal. At any day or night. It's pretty amazing.
When the CFO met with us 3 weeks ago, plus 2 other key employees, that day they were operating at 70%. Nuclear plant was operating at 70.
Where's that?
Wolf Creek.
They were probably downturned to do some kind of maintenance, not to overload.
I don't know. They
Yeah,
told us that-
but Wolf Creek is a low cost of entry
Yeah.
power. Like, they will, and they have a priority queue position. You know, if they're operating at 70%, it's because there's just not enough out there. Like, we're not in the reality going to significantly impact their output any more than any other person. Just, you know, because that project is fully amortized, their fuel costs are very low. You know, I don't know what their dollar cost entry is, but it's probably cheaper than ours to start with right now, because they just make up whatever number they want, because it's all paid for.
As fast as all these industries are moving forward, what happens in 10 years when the panels you've got need to be replaced because of economics?
So these panels are warranted.
Is that in your plan, or can that happen?
It can happen. Actually, yeah. So first off, these panels carry a warranty of normally 25 to 30 years. So the plan A would be to use them that long. You're right, panel costs have dropped significantly, and there could be a scenario in the future, 10, 15, 20 years.
If they get to where they're not efficient, I mean, you either shut it down or replace it.
Well, yeah, you could go buy new panels, pop the old ones off, pop new ones on. However, if they start getting, inefficient, they tend to degrade at about 0.5% a year in terms of efficiency. So if you get out to that point where you've already got that degradation planned, so if you get out to a point where they're down to 80% of what they originally did 30 years from now.
Yeah, but that'd take 40 years to get down to 80, so that 0.5%.
Yeah.
Where the panels made?
It depends. They're all over the planet now. There's been federal stimulus money trying to repatriate the manufacturing for solar panels. We're still so far out on this one. Nobody knows.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
I mean,
obviously China comes into question and.
Trying to make a lot of sense.
The tariffs associated with the Chinese power making panels right now make them pretty unattractive. There's a lot of Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Cambodia, but the IRA Act, like Harrison mentioned, is really stimulating domestic growth, and we love that ability if it can make it. So right now, the U.S. is going to put 50 gigs of solar in, and there's about 5 gigs worth of U.S. production, which is not very much. But I think it's going to come quickly, because it's not, honestly, they're not hard things to make. It's a highly automated process. It's more about getting the technology in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Right here, it stated in here, when Wolf Creek was here, they said, we're 100% power now, and we're almost always at 100%. Occasionally, and we call on a daily basis around midday and figure out what tomorrow's projection is. Occasionally, we will back down around midnight to 70%. Typically, for a couple of days, and then it really doesn't go on. So the day that they was here, they was at 100% power.
I thought he said 70, but I could be
Well,
wrong.
he said occasionally we will, and this is the transcript of the meeting that Wade had put together.
And that sounds like a demand response.
Right.
Spring and fall, spring and fall.
Yeah, so I just wanted to clear it.
Okay.
So,
So I was incorrect on that statement.
took me a little review.
A little while to find it.
Thank
I've
you
got
for
a
meeting minutes.
couple of questions.
Sure.
If that's okay.
Go for it.
So you mentioned early on voluntary donation pilot, whichever one you want to call it, and the number you stated was 1.5 million per year. Where does that, if you're on the same grid capacity level as Wolf Creek, and Wolf Creek is paying for the lion's share of the tax base for the county, where does the 1.5 million come from? And at the stage when that voluntary donation is, I guess, being discussed, is it something that can be negotiated?
We would have to think about it. That number comes from what we understand to be typical for renewable energy projects in the state that make a contribution to the county on a per megawatt basis. So we understand that voluntary contribution to be something that's kind of industry standard at this point for wind, and just following their lead.
But that would still be negotiated with the county.
It could be.
It's in the BBC stage.
Yeah, I know, but that's based on
It's
that.
so much per kilowatt.
But that's based on that 8,500 acre lease value.
It's based on the per megawatt size
megawatt.
of those contributions that are typically made in the state of Kansas.
There's been a lot of counties that's outspoken and said we don't want it, period. So I think the counties that are getting more willing to have it in their county is getting less and less. Therefore, it might increase the donation in the first 10 years, possibly. Go ahead, Wade.
I was just curious because I've been looking at pilot agreements at the request of this board, and I just didn't know where that number came from. One thing that also, at some point in time, I think somebody mentioned, maybe you did or somebody else, that after the construction would be completed and operation occurs, is the sale of the entire 8,500 acres or whatever would be to another company, and what would that look like? I know initially Hecate would be involved until that point. What would that look like, the transition, and then how would that impact the county, if at all?
Happy to discuss. So by the time operation occurs, the legal structural contracts that governs the operation of the project will be fully set in stone, set in contract. So that includes agreements with landowners for leases, and in some instances where there's a substation even purchase, and for the county as the permit or any other agreement entered into between the project and the county. The permit is the number one place where requirements from the county are locked in with the project. Other requirements, contractual obligations, could be entered into between the project and other entities. All contractual obligations, all of them, were the project to be transferred in ownership to a long-term owner, would go with all contractual obligations.
Because Hecate is the developer, correct?
Correct.
So once you're done with the project, then your goal is to sell that to someone.
That's sort of our business model. That's how we do it.
Right.
So we're not speculative.
Right.
No, I didn't mean that.
Yeah.
I wasn't alluding to that. But you're the developer, and then from there, you would sell to
The
whoever.
one who operates the asset.
Partner.
Yeah.
Yep.
Partner with a long-term
Right.
owner who's going to operate the asset as it exists for its operational life, based on the requirements set out in the permit, based on any other contract that we've entered into.
They accept everything.
They accept everything.
And you'd be out.
At that point.
At that point, right.
So we've done it different ways too. We can sell it right at, when we turn the keys over and it's an operational project. We can also, sell before before construction begins. Those are the two typical moments in time. Sometimes the long-term owner wants to be responsible for construction, sometimes they don't.
What type of owner normally buys?
Utilities, large insurance companies, companies that like very conservative investments. These are the kind of investment that you look at here is for a project of this size, likely close to $1 billion put up front for construction and so forth, and then it just sits there generating revenue, you know, soaking in the sun, as it were, for the next several decades. So it's really low risk to operate and high cost to install. And so somebody who's got a lot of money, but really averse to risk.
No foreign investors, to your knowledge?
Typically, no. I mean, I don't think there's any rules against it, but you'd have to go through the federal government.
I mean, we don't, to be frank, like, we do see some European companies as part of the consortium. Some Asian companies, although typically not China, are typically not owners in the project. But yeah, it's not. I mean, we normally sell to U.S. companies like, I don't know, like other, like utility scale owner operators of solar facilities that are U.S. based. So that's who we normally look at.
Energy.
Yeah. DESD, Shaw, Renewable Energy, Greenback Energy. You know, those, you know, and
Los Angeles Department of Water.
Yeah, I mean, they are essentially funds that will develop a fund to go buy projects and own and operate it.
Yeah. A common concern is Chinese ownership of things. We have, at one point, I remember, you know, did a deal with somebody who had some partial Chinese ownership, and we do go through a CFIUS review to sell projects. It got knocked down in the CFIUS review. The federal government really doesn't like selling stuff to.
Which is good.
Yeah.
It's one good thing they're doing.
Yeah.
Did I say that?
Did you not say that? Do you currently have any other solar projects in the state of Kansas that the commissioners could reach out to those counties?
I don't in Kansas, but I do, we've got contacts that can be reached out to. Was it Brewster in Texas? I think Brewster in Texas, and then, I mean, I'd be happy to give you people's numbers in other counties.
We'd be happy to provide some additional contacts for you guys.
That's about the question I have, is if you could supply some references.
And going to that, you had a project that you were proposing in Butler County, I think.
Butler, that's the one I was thinking of, yeah.
And, I mean, I don't know how long ago I don't know if that's been a year ago or 2 years ago or whatever, but why did you, if I remember right, it wasn't as large as this project, maybe it was half again, but what was the reasoning for, I assume that their commissioners were going through the same thing that we are, but what was the main reason why you pulled out of
They have
that?
a unique difference.
Was that because of the Flint Hills?
Yes, that presence of that rare ecological community being in their county and taking up so much of their county was really the deciding factor for them. It really had to do with habitat.
Okay, I assume that's what it would be, but, and I'm not sure if they
We
could
could still
have.
propose a project in Butler County. We could still go propose a project in Butler County, but it would have to avoid this particular location.
And it would be
And we
somewhat.
didn't have land permission anywhere else. It happened to be the land that we had a lease for contained that habitat. We didn't have other lands we could go propose. Yeah, it was unfortunate for that landowner.
No, and I know it is. I was just curious if that's why you pulled out. And I don't think that they put a ban on, I think they put a memorandum on. I'm sorry.
It's a permitted activity in Butler County as long as it avoids this little area. It's not a small area, as long as it avoids this particular type of habitat. So we could still go and apply for a project there, but we don't presently have land outside of that special habitat. There's, that critical habitat doesn't occur in the 8,000 acres we're looking at. It was the first thing we looked at when we got here.
Sure was.
We learned our lesson.
Was it the green-eared frog? No, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
It could be a little animal, you never know.
Could be.
know.
That's a good question.
Wade?
I guess the last thing is you mentioned the project, and it's, if I counted the number of times the project's been mentioned, I probably would have lost count. But as far as the county goes, there's not a project. You guys, Hecate has a project, but there's nothing, there's no rules in place to bring before the county to initiate an actual county project for approval.
That's correct. In fact, we have no business before the commission or before the county at all right now. We just came here because we thought we might as well introduce our project and talk about what benefits it might have should it ever, come into existence. For now, it is, something we would like to do and nothing beyond that.
And if that day does come, you'll have to go before
That's correct.
the planning and zoning.
We would have to develop a compliant application, submit the compliant application, and then go before planning and zoning, and then go before the commissioners and receive approval for our project, for a special use permit.
And until then, it's an idea or outside of getting landowners and leases in place.
Correct.
You're going through what I'll call a pre-planning phase.
Yes.
For what your internal project is, but there's nothing outside of that that's going on that you're not in the darkness of night putting structures up and that type of thing.
Absolutely
Certainly
not.
not.
This may not be a fair question, Harrison, but with 8,500 acres technically is already leased?
No, technically it's under an agreement by which we can lease it when and if we would.
When and if.
Correct.
How did this first time you've been in front of our commission, and I don't think any of your firms have been in front of the planning board, and our planning director here is Heidi.
Check it out.
Yeah, we have.
You have?
Yes.
And, okay, sorry to correct that again, but, well, once again, I lost where I was headed to. But how did the proposed 8,500 acres, it isn't under lease yet, how did it get that far without, coming before the planning board or the commission?
So
I'm
this
not
is
trying
a
to
good
be critical,
question.
but it seemed like a lot of stuff has already happened.
Yeah, so what our perspective and what we have been advised actually to do is to let the county ordinance process play out and let the county take its time developing its own ordinance and then start talking to people once an ordinance was in place. And so that was the respect for the county's process that we wanted to have, was to leave this commission to its business until there was a set of rules that we could comply with or try to comply with. It became clear that, the commission would like to hear from us, and that's why we're here right now, because we took note of that, and we want to be as available as y'all want us to be, and, we don't necessarily have to have a project here, but I want to at least have respect for the community regardless of what happens.
Can I get some clarification? There's no leases that have been
Correct.
drawn up between landowners and no payments?
There's no
being
active
made to
leases.
Be made, and there's been no non-disclosures been made agreements?
So there are agreements between landowners and the project. They have been made. There's no lease that's been entered into.
And there's no money that's gone from Hecate to landowners?
We've paid landowners stuff, yeah.
But you're saying there's no leases?
Correct, there's no lease.
I don't understand if there's a contractual agreement between you guys and the plan,
Correct.
but there's no lease.
Correct.
So you're just throwing money out?
No, it's an agreement that says, should we want to start a lease at some point in time during the term of an agreement, then we can start that lease.
It's no different than when gas people or oil people, they come in and, for the lack of a better term, lease,
Tie up.
do what?
Tie up.
Well, tie up so many acres.
Yeah.
That's what you've done.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all gas, oil, or whatever.
So it's not construction,
No.
contractual.
No, it's
If
not.
anybody who wants out of it right now, they can just say, nope, I'm done.
No, it's a contract. It's a contract, it's called an option contract. And the option, it's called an option because we have the option, not the requirement, to start a lease when we.
Because you've got to have, in order to do a project, you've got to have so many acres tied up to do that particular project.
Right.
And that's all it is.
That's right.
It's no
We have
different
to-
than a gas company coming in, or an oil company coming in, and my folks, for instance, had a section of ground, and every few years they would lease, or they would tie up that ground to an oil company for $10 an acre
Yeah.
for 3 years.
Yeah.
Did anything ever happen? No, but the folks got so many dollars off, and that's, I assume that's what this is.
Yep, same structure.
Yeah.
So, right, yeah, well, I guess that's all I have to say about that.
So Harrison, is, just to clear up some of the horrible misinformation that's been thrown out there, solar cannot do eminent domain, is that correct?
No, we are a private company. Hecate Energy is a private company. We lack the right of eminent domain. We may not, cannot, and do not do eminent domain.
I just wanted to clarify.
And that was something else.
Yeah, utilities can, we are not a utility, we are a private company.
When Wolf Creek came in, they did.
Yes.
That was part of the problem, but they did.
The line that we're attaching to is
Wolf
on
Creek was
site,
federal.
and so
Wolf Creek was federal, that's
the
correct.
line that we have signed up to lease is covering where the power line that we want to hook up to is. So we wouldn't be running any power line at distance, we'd just be interconnecting right on our own site.
Yeah, we wouldn't be building any overhead line.
Right.
It's already there.
Yeah, it's already there.
Commission have any more questions for Hecate?
No.
Hey Jesse, I have one other question. Can you make that, environmental impact study public? How can I get my hands on that?
Sure.
So we haven't written like an environmental impact study.
Well, whatever results.
What we
of the study
really
you
would
got.
like to do is apply publicly to to a public permitting process where we would provide all the documents that are requested in the ordinance, and we would publish that on our website. I kind of mentioned that at the bottom of the FAQ, the list of studies we would expect to prepare and where we would publish it if we were given the opportunity to apply
And
for a permit.
and that's if you were to, go to the process of
Applying for a permit.
applying, that's when that would come in.
Right, and then not before that, because again, we don't know what's required yet.
Sure.
So we would do the studies, that are necessary to apply for a permit based on an ordinance that is not a draft, but a finished ordinance. And should that ordinance allow for our use and we can put a complying application in, that's part of the application.
Right, we welcome very much a transparent permitting process where we would share all the documents.
Yeah.
But not before.
But not before.
Right.
Don't blame him.
Just a couple things for me to follow up, Harrison.
Sure, Don.
References for the project, can you, I think you made a comment.
Yeah.
You can supply 2 or 3 references for the places you've already constructed so that we can
Absolutely.
evaluate, the quality of work you do.
Absolutely.
Everything. I know I've been involved in some businesses. We always like to, and this is a private business as I understand it, we kind of always like to look at 3 years' history, audit report, to see the strength of the business that's going to be doing the project.
Mm-hmm.
Is there audit reports for 3 years so that we could evaluate the strength of your operation?
So I've never been
I'm not saying you're
asked
weak,
that by-
don't misunderstand. We want to make sure.
We can provide financial calls. I've never been asked for financial statements, but I'll go back and see what that is.
Well, I would need a book that's got 100 pages in it.
Yeah.
Basically, if you got about 4 or 5 pages, statement of operation. Well, the main thing is you got the audit report.
Sure, we can.
Main thing is you got the audit report where it's unqualified opinion.
Yeah, we can
Where
definitely.
you got the new GAAP rules.
Yeah.
Those are the things that are important because they're stating the quality, basically stating the quality of your.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we can include stuff like that in the application, absolutely.
And that's not, like, once again, not trying to question.
No,
You know, there's been a lot of questions here today, Harrison, but I think it's been, to me, it's been a huge dialogue between basically two businesses. This is basically a business to me.
Oh.
We're individual
I'm happy to
corporations,
talk,
but
I really am.
to me, I look at it as a business.
Yeah,
Because we're here working together for the betterment of Coffee County.
yeah. That makes sense.
No, we feel that way too.
I'm sorry?
We feel that way too.
Okay, that's way,
Yeah, we're happy to be here.
and a lot of the questions make you feel negative.
No, I'm
Don't
perfectly
intend for
happy.
I think you got
Don't think
something?
I'm negative either. I like,
It's okay.
I like solar, wind, hydro, gas turbine, I like them all.
Good.
Makes them lights turn on.
Yeah, I like air conditioning.
Thank
Can I
you got
get
something?
clarification?
Sure.
For counties, it's not ordinances, it's gonna be regulations or resolutions.
Okay.
Ordinances are city, so I just wanna just clarify that, because the general public, when you say ordinance, they may not know that that's actually by resolution, county resolution, and then it becomes regulations for counties. Cities are your
Okay.
ordinances, I just wanted to clarify, just to make it a little, easier to understand why they're on.
At this point in time, it really doesn't matter.
Anyway.
Because we don't have anything.
Next regulatory framework, that's what we're looking for.
Regulatory framework.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say that, regulatory framework. Okay.
And I just need more time, I needed more time to do discovery, and this is part of it. I mean, we hadn't met with you, when you had your, meeting at the.
Our open house.
Open house in
Yeah.
South Park. But this is the first time that we've been able to visit with you on one-to-one.
Yeah.
And that's part of the discussion. I mean, we don't want to jump into something that's going to hurt Coffee County in the years to come.
Mm-hmm. Understood, you're doing your jobs.
Anybody else have anything, commission?
Good, we appreciate your
Thank
time.
you for your time.
Harrison, y'all, thank you for your time.
Indeed.
Have,
And,
have a safe trip back home. I
Thank
don't, some of it came from far away, maybe all of it.
Yes, we're looking forward to it.
appreciate the information, and as you know, it's all on YouTube, so this evening,
Indeed.
it'll hit YouTube world. Everybody can,
Yeah, you're on the camera. There's
yeah,
no question.
everybody can say what they want to.
Mark's got a lot to write in the paper.
Yeah,
Oh, good. All right. Well, appreciate it. We're
appreciate
gonna get out of
you.
your hair then.
Thank you for
Appreciate
your
your time.
time.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Hey, come here.
Harrison, Tiny Jackson. Tiny
So we're gonna call you, well,
I work all over the ass.
Thank you.
Yes, we need a break.
Work all.
Yes, yeah, we do. We're gonna take a 10-minute break, we'll be back at 12:18.
Thanks, sir.
We can do lunch, you want to do lunch?
I don't know how much we're done.
I know, wait,
Thank you. We'll come back at 1.
we're gonna recess till 1 o'clock for lunch. We will, thank you.
It's probably a good thing you do.
Yep, you can get up and move around too.
We are, aren't we?
Tom's in the boys'
Tom's in the
room,
restroom.
so he said he might make it back or might not by the time we got to 1 o'clock. We just got some checks and vouchers to go through.
I don't think we got anything on.
Then we've got stuff, I know Wade's got stuff, and Mr. Thompson's got some stuff, and I'm sure we've all got stuff, so.
Stuff.
More stuff than we wanted to have at this time of the day. Andy, I was looking at the budget deal, our county funds. You know, that 70,896,000, that's including the jail project bond money too, isn't it? So
That's including that 12 million.
yeah, realistically, it's 12 million shy of this number.
Yeah, but we still gained from last year because there's 2 or 3 others.
Well, there's another bond that will come in when you get it, and that'll be an additional 10.
But that is basically, I mean, this is funds for the county, but it's not, it's spoken for, it's earmarked.
That's for the jail.
Yeah, so realistically, we're at 68
Oh,
million.
Realistic, we're sitting at 58.
58,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. If you didn't want to talk about the jail and you just want to look
Right.
at this, yeah.
So how,
And you take last year at this time, we had 18 million in the jail, and still showing 70, so, that puts us at 52, so we've gained 4 or 5 million from last year. At
that's
the
what I
same
was
time-
trying to.
At the same
At the same time, that's what I was trying to look at,
And that's the
well, it's probably your interest, and it's your increases.
right.
Our general fund's up $1.3 million. I was looking at it the other day, and I forget what the other funds were, but there's a substantial increase once you adjust
So,
for the jail.
in the appraiser's office and in the treasurer's office, they can do projections, can they not? Like, let's just say, from January 1 to June 1, whatever. They can do a projection.
Oh, you're
of
talking-
what's gonna be money coming in, can't they?
They can give you an estimate
A rough
based on
estimate,
previous
Not
years.
being, once he knows the mill levy, once he knows the appraisal, he wouldn't be very far off.
Right, that's why I'm wondering if we could start, and this would be my idea, is trying to get projections. You know, not spend the money before you get it, not counting on it, but just being able to foresee the projection, what the treasurer's saying, what the appraiser's saying.
I hope Wolf Creek don't drop 40 million.
Well, and that's the one that that's one
Yeah,
you're out
that you'll
of
never
control.
I really don't think that will happen. I've got a feeling it'll gradually maybe work up a little bit, but it don't happen.
I don't know, I just,
The end of those new transformers, you'd think maybe that might kick it back
Kick it
up.
back
I
up.
don't know whether that does or not.
well, those things aren't cheap, I don't know what they cost, but I think expensive.
We buy them by the pound, what they weigh, and it's like trucks that were hauling them in there.
Yeah, they're about 800,000 pounds. They're not light. Wade, we're back in, and I think that took care of our agenda for the day, and I guess we're at roundtable. And then we can sign checks and vouchers after roundtable.
Tom wasn't here last week, so maybe one of the things to talk about is there was an update on the Maribels. I'm not sure if you're, so the foreclosure process, there's a default. The county is sort of sitting in a holding pattern. There will be a sheriff's sale. I would assume that the county will be competitive, if not the high bidder on at the sheriff's sale. If somebody comes in and I guess outbids the county, then so be it. But there's a retention period that is baked into that. And what I mean by that is the IRS has a claim.
I'm familiar with this, so.
Okay. So the summary and what you need to be aware is in the intervening time period, the county has the ability to now move into a period of time until things are final to rent the property if the county wants to do so. So if there's somebody out there who is interested and there's an agreement that would have to be put in place to make that happen, to sort of cover that intervening time period, there's a way to do that. Then getting somebody in there and not having that property sit idle anymore is, I think, in everybody's best interest. So I know at one point in time, there was mention of somebody being interested. I don't know if they're still interested. There are others who may be interested that have reached out to me, and I've told them they need to talk to their commissioner, because I'm not the one that does that. Just FYI. I think at a minimum, I've got the keys to the building. So can go down there, check it out, see what's what. I know there's some things that will need to be done. There's the utility issue, where the utilities are gonna need to be transferred into the county's name, and then I'm not sure how that process will work with what's due and owing on the utilities, but we'll circle back if we need to. So, just FYI.
I know one time you mentioned that there was a water leak on that west side.
There's some dripping.
Pause. On that west side, I think it's right at the edge of the, buildings.
I would say first things first, I would like to get that taken care of, like ASAP.
It's a roof issue.
Yeah, I'm sure, I'm sure it is.
There's two places.
Two places, it appears like, and that's a flat roof, I think. Which,
All the buildings downtown are.
okay, all right.
I mean, I hate to put a new roof on it, but we've got to preserve what we have.
Yeah, because if the roof goes wide, then that causes the whole roof.
Hopefully they could spot the crack or whatever.
And that may be all it is, Wade, is just a crack up.
You know,
in
just
the
hopefully,
seam, yeah.
you know.
And then fix the inside where it's done. But the suggestion would be not to do anything until after the sheriff's sale, correct?
So you can,
We can rent now.
yep. The county now has the judgment, so if the county wants, the county has the ability to rent it during this intervening time period.
And if I understood right, you could do like a five-year lease, but
Well, I think you want to do something a little less. I mean, I guess it depends on what the potential renter would want, and things are negotiable.
Yeah, just work on that and discuss them with a prospective renter would probably.
And I just want it for right now, because people will watch, if there is somebody who's interested. I mean, it has equipment, it's furnished, it's almost move-in ready outside of getting it up to speed. And if somebody's interested, they need to reach out to their commissioner, and then to at least initiate or start that process.
Yeah.
You think we ought to try to get a hold of somebody to come in and do a cleaning?
I mean,
only one refrigerator, yes.
yeah, one of the refrigerators is going to need some extra TLC.
TLC.
Yeah. Yep. But it probably wouldn't hurt. I could walk down with a commissioner at Barb and see if there's somebody she can reach out to somebody and see if they go in and do a cleanse.
I mean, I hate wrapping more money up into it, but it's something that's gonna need to be done prior to renting out.
If it's in the spot where it can get somebody in it, then I think that's in everybody's best interest.
Right.
Then it's not sitting idle, and idle property is, and then it potentially is generating income or something for the county.
Get taxes going again on sales tax and et cetera.
Well, they pay it.
And
Yeah, if they pay it.
we may need to, I'll have to check on this, but may need to reach out to Trust Point about some sort of insurance for it as well. So,
Refrigerator old enough where you just load it up and go to landfill with it?
the problem is,
You can't
those
like that.
refrigerators were brand new, so.
Or they won't?
Yeah.
This one's unplugged or just modified?
Yes. I don't know.
Stainless steel, isn't it? I mean, it's a nice
They're
refrigerator.
They're commercial refrigerators.
I'm sure it
I
can likely
paid.
be repaired. What the cost of that is, I don't know. But there's two identical freezers, and one of them was working within whatever the required temperature was, and the other one was not. What the reason is, I have no idea.
I thought that was the one that got unplugged when, it turned the power off everywhere but the apartment.
I mean, they were all plugged in, there's drop cords running across, and